Rocchio racing into third base is Angel Martinez with an RBI triple. And it's 2-1 Cleveland.
That courtesy Guardians TV. Good guys end up winning at 3-2. The Guardians win their fifth in a row. Jose Ramirez added an RBI double. That turned out to be the difference. Guardians tied the game in the ninth on a ground out by Patrick Bailey. Tanner Bibee got the start, gives up 1 run for its over 8 innings, but gets a no decision. Browns head coach Todd Monkin seems to be backing off the idea he would likely know who his starting quarterback is at the end of the spring. On Wednesday, Monkin would not say if Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, the early leader in the competition. However, there are several reports claiming Watson has got the advantage. OTAs continue today in Berea. Browns Ramec Quinshon Judkins been partaking in some team drills during OTAs this week. Judkins working his way back following a broken right leg and dislocated ankle, an injury suffered in Week 16 of last season. Judkins is expected to be ready to go in time for training camp in July. Cavaliers continue their Eastern Conference Finals series in New York tonight. Cavs going to be trying to get even with the Knicks after losing Game 1 on Tuesday night, 115-104 in overtime. Western Conference Finals last night, Oklahoma City bouncing back, beats San Antonio 122-113. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 30 points. The series tied at 1 game apiece. In the loss, Spurs center Victor Wembanyama, double-double, 21 points, 17 rebounds. Game 3 in San Antonio tomorrow night. On the ice, Cleveland Monsters blank Toronto 4-0. Monsters now lead the North Division Finals 2-1. Monsters can clinch the 5-game series with a win tomorrow night in Toronto. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next, half the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
The afternoon drive.
You got to have a feel for an NBA playoff game, Kenny.
Yeah.
Like, all you needed was Kenny Atkinson not to be a chud in that moment, but chud away, or a single basket. Not even a stop. One simple change, one basket, one Kenny Atkinson whistle, because you got to save those timeouts. Any one of those 3 things right now, and we're talking about close call, but hey, doesn't matter. Style points don't matter. You won the damn game.
There really is like 30 different things that we can point to. Jared Allen missing 2 free throws. He missed his free throws, but he missed both of them in that spot. Air ball by Harden. You talk about the 8 ISO attempts. Who in their right mind thinks it's a smart idea? Listen, Jalen Brunson's one of the best scorers in the NBA anyway. He's going to tear apart good defensive players. 36-year-old James Harden, who has gone to back-to-back Game 7s, that's the call in that spot? It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
The afternoon drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
Oh, yeah, he made the adjustment.
Right center field up the alley. It'll get down and go to the wall. Scoring is Rocchio. Racing into third base is Angel Martinez with an RBI triple. And it's 2-1 Cleveland. And the 1-1 is lined to left center field by Jose Ramirez. That's in the gap. That goes to the wall. Martinez scores. Jose's into second with an RBI double. And the Guardians have put 2 on the board in the 10th. Now the 1-2. Popped him up. Jose calls for it. He says, Rocchio, get out of here. Book it. The Guardians have won the first 3 from the Tigers in this series. It took them 10 innings, but they prevailed by a final score of 3-2.
Tanner got the win. I mean, as much as he may not get it in the box score, but to give us 8 innings, to keep us in that game, I mean, the 1 run was really his only blemish, the leadoff walk there, and they made him pay for it. But Tanner, 8 innings, did his job, kept us in that game. You know, we're having a tough time scoring runs for Tanner so far this year, but credit to our guys who stayed in it, didn't quit, got the 9th inning rally going, but Tanner was definitely the player of the game.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Audio courtesy of Guardians TV. All right, we're going to get to the Cavs here in just a moment, I promise you. But my God, they've won 5 in a row. The Cleveland Guardians.
Kicking ass, taking names, as they say, Kenny.
I'm happy they won, and Tanner Bibee said all the right things, and he's happy they won. And I think that he means all the right things. He's happy they won. But, man, whose ass does Tanner Bibee have to kiss to get a win?
It's incredible.
Look at what
get a win. He'll take a run. My God. He's got to lead the majors in the least amount of run support when he's actually on the mound. I was looking at my phone yesterday and looking at his stats as he was finishing up in the 8th. And I'm like, oh my God, like his last outing, all right, gave up 3, all earned, no biggie. But then
and he went 6 2/3, so that is actually a quality start.
But then they scored
by the letter of the law.
They scored all the runs after he left the game.
Yes. Minnesota gave up one earned, went 6 innings. They lost 2-1.
Hard luck, yeah.
Kansas City, 4 hits, got banged around a little bit. 5 hits, 4 runs, got banged around a little bit. Like, I don't want to go down the line, but the last time he got blown up, I guess you could argue at Kansas City back on May 4th. But really, other than that, like the only other time he's been blown up before that was the Atlanta game at Atlanta where he gave up 8 over that time. And then he gave up 3 the first day out against Seattle. And that was when, remember, he had an arm issue to start the year. I'm going, my God, how can the guy not get a win?
Well, I only say this because they're 7 games above 500, and they're starting to pull away from the teams here in the first third of the season that don't belong, right? Like you've seen the Tigers. Like they're wondering if when Skubal comes back, do they trade him now? I'm looking at this going, well, I appreciate the commitment to the bit. Like I kind of want Tanner Bibee at this stage. I want him to be like 0-10. Not because I want to see us lose. I just want the ridiculousness of the lack of run support to be so evident that everybody's like, oh, this is the hardest luck of hardest luck.
I will give you some Tanner Bibee stats. All right? 1.29 runs per game when he's the starting pitcher, or when he's the pitcher on the mound.
That's crazy.
He has 9 runs of support when he's the pitcher of record in a game. And he started 11.
Well, and then you looked at the lineup.
The next closest, so he's 1.29 per game. The next closest is Seth Lugo, and he's over 2.
And then look at the lineup yesterday. Who wasn't in the lineup yesterday? Like, Bibee's got to be like, this is a joke now. It's officially a joke. You took Bazzana out. I know he came in later to pinch hit, but he had to be thinking, no, you guys are just messing with me now. Next time, there'll be no Jose Ramirez.
So we know that wins losses aren't a big deal. Like, how many people could tell you who's the all-time wins leader in baseball history as a pitcher?
I feel like a lot of people can tell you that answer.
Who is it?
It's Cy Young.
How many?
511.
Okay, but did you just get done playing baseball in your career because you're 24 years old?
I just feel like that's kind of.
I thought it was either going to be
I want John
Cy
to go,
Young or Tommy
I want John
John
to go on the street now. I want John to go on East 9th and go stand outside the county building and ask 10 people who walk in the building who's the all-time winner and wins. No, that's the program. He plays baseball. I want him to go out in front of the county building and ask 10 people who walk in. The first 10 people, who's the all-time leader in wins? I guarantee you one will know. Out of 10. 1. It's not the biggest deal anymore. If you're a baseball guy and you're listening to this, you know it's Cy Young for 5'11".
Hold on now. When I was younger, I feel like I kind of was like John, where I knew all the obvious trivia in baseball, but that stuff's all gone. All that stuff is gone. I don't know whether it was the steroid era, which is also doubled as my favorite era in all of sports. I don't know if it was that. It was awesome.
Well, I think it was the last couple of years when we had a home run chase and they're going, it's 61. I'm like, I saw Barry Bonds hit way more than that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I'm not extracting that memory from.
I saw Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa hit way more than that.
The kids today, listen, I know you guys all have your sliding mitts and your juicy mouthpieces and all that other stuff, even though you're not even allowed to slide head first, but I guess you get a sliding mitt, whatever. I guess it makes an easy birthday present if you have a summer birthday. But either way, guys, you have no idea what it was like, because I'll just go down Nostalgia Road. Sunday night, John Miller, Joe Morgan, Sunday Night Baseball, live look-ins from other places during the home run race. You had it, and we always remember Sosa McGwire. There were like 8 guys that you would do live look-ins every single night during the summer. Baseball Tonight was must-see television at the end of the night because you stayed up all night because we were kids. So you stayed up. Baseball Tonight would come on at like 11, and then you'd watch the replay. Everything else, it was one of the great.
And it all mattered.
It was a collection of the after the strike. It was a collection of the greatest summers that anybody could ever live through.
You're exactly right, and it felt like it was larger than life. It felt when I was young, it felt like it was on the same stage as the NFL. Like it really did for me when I was young. So I know that's probably crazy to people that listen now.
John, you have no idea. You should have seen it. It was right before you were born. It was amazing. You would have loved every second of it. And there's a guy who's 38 years old right now driving into work on 480 who's absolutely nodding his head because he totally agrees. It was one of the greatest eras in sports history, not just baseball history, sports history.
It was perfect if you lived in Cleveland because it led right up to this coming out party for one of the best lineups in the history of baseball.
And you had one of the guys that was always shown up on the graphic because you had Albert Bell. It was Albert. It was Ken Griffey Jr. Greg Vaughn was in there at one point. Mo Vaughn in there? Yeah, Mo Vaughn was in there.
Brady Anderson was in there for a minute.
Well,
1 minute.
Has that ever been proven? Well, he was in there for a minute. That's proven. But the other thing
was he not in the report?
I don't know if he was.
Rafael Palmeiro
shaking his finger.
My buddy's dad looked like Rafael Palmeiro. We used to call him that.
Palmeiro is the greatest liar of all time. It was so beautiful. It's like we all know he's lying. He's basically laughing at the whole process. He's lying so badly.
Maybe he believed it at the time.
And he was awesome.
Is that where you learned how to tell your dubious stories?
What are you talking about?
Well,
keep laughing. Keep laughing.
The time you met the guy who was like the chair of the Republican Party in Hamilton County. And Lima basically said he interned for him, and the guy acted like, oh, yeah, because he must have 1,000 different interns, and he just didn't want to hurt Lima's feelings, who never interned and never met him once. It was amazing. It was amazing.
A fun elevator ride.
Yeah, Lima's basically Don Draper. So they've won 5 in a row. It's a great run in May.
Show with Dickie Whitman.
It's a great one. It's a great run in May. Let's not talk about how that ends. They take on Philly. Now, John.
Oh, we're going to have a house divided.
Are we going to have John here, or is John doing something else? Oh, okay. I didn't mean to bother you over there, John. What are you going to make a big deal if Philly wins tomorrow?
No.
You're not?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Like, you're not going to try to rub it in if Philly wins.
No.
Why not? Aren't you on the are you on this weekend?
I'm on Monday.
Why don't you? Oh my God. Okay. Who are you on with?
Malik, new guy.
Okay, if you and Malik are on, should you or should you not make a big deal and get either people for or against you with the Philadelphia Phillies? Do you not plan to go back to Philadelphia and do sports talk radio, John?
Well, I don't know.
So this should just be a drop in the bucket. Why do you care about making people in Cleveland, Ohio upset?
Here's what I like. It was Malik, new guy. And listen, I was there before. I was at this station when some new guys got some opportunities. And it's right now, it is a lot of the young guys at the station going, who's this Malik guy? Where'd he come from?
I don't know. I heard him. I thought he sounded pretty good.
But if you're one of the younger guys at the station,
thought he sounded pretty good.
You threatened?
I really liked the way he sounded.
John, you threatened?
You threatened, John?
Are the young guys threatened?
The kid knows a ton of ball. I'll say that right now.
Okay, but you call him a kid? How old is Malik?
He's 19.
He's way younger than John.
We're putting 19 years.
Yeah.
19.
Whoa!
I had to wait till I was 30.
Malik's 19.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
I couldn't get an opportunity. At
All
19.
right. Well, hey, the business has changed.
Now I'm getting threatened.
The business has changed.
Should I be the one threatened?
Are you going to hold it against him and say he didn't pay his dues?
No.
Are you going to be like Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon?
I always laughed at that one. That one was always so silly to me. I saw that in TV all the time. The people that didn't pay their dues that were getting opportunities, and now it's happening more and more in Cleveland, Ohio.
Stop it. Shut up.
Been seeing that more and more. And,
dump that.
And you would see people get so.
We're not doing that.
You'd see people get so
rank all those
jealous.
guys that have not paid their dues in Cleveland, Ohio. Go ahead.
Are you talking
Lima?
It's just TV?
You can do it wherever you want.
Should I leave the room so you can tell the truth?
I got one, guys.
Who?
Baker Mayfield's wife. People are still buzzing. Still talking about that one.
I'm going to go do the rest of the show under the table. Goodbye.
But she put out 3 pieces, and then that was the end of her.
She was busy.
I remember a whole arm of a promotions wing. Here we go. Was it Emily Mayfield? Who's, by the way, mother of 2 now? Congratulations.
He still has 2 to go. If you want to finish the power ranking. Go ahead.
I think we cornered the market. I think we're good.
God. Ken
is on the ground right now. I got a nasty message from somebody in town about that when I brought it up on the air. Like, all you have to do get a break in TV in this town is be married to the quarterback.
Power rank those nasty messages you got.
Now, Brian Hoyer's wife never got on the air. We should ask Brian.
Local gal, too.
Were you threatened? Were you annoyed?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't at all.
Anything. Listen, this is great. Keep doing all of this. Anything to get me not to think about what happened the other night.
It's okay.
Have you ever gone radio and TV silent? And it's no offense to Nick and Jonathan, because I'm sure we'll have some clips or whatever. I refused.
I wanted to listen to Nick and Jonathan.
Locally, nationally, I ignored it all yesterday.
I was totally different. I listened to Baskin and Phelps yesterday. I listened to Nick and John. I listened to the Fratello interview. It was great. I listened to Nick and Jonathan yesterday.
Coach on?
Basically, all 5 hours. I mean, we had to do other things, but I listened to almost the whole show yesterday. I wanted the local angle to it. I did not watch any ESPN. I did not watch Breakfast Ball on FS1. There was none of it. What local? It was all local. It was all the guys because it was therapeutic, and I liked how I made this point yesterday afternoon on 8 because let's be honest. He definitely wants to put me in the power ranking, but he's not going to do it. I made this point yesterday. I made this point with you yesterday morning, and it hit differently in the afternoon. There were a lot of people who disagreed with me because I'm like, guys. As angry as I was, and as angry as I was with Kenny Atkinson and his messaging afterwards, like, we can't name this. This is stupid. The other ones ended the season. Like, the decision ended an era. Like, can we just stop carrying this around like a badge of honor? Our disappointments in sports. We will have plenty of trauma to come.
I was with you on that.
And it seemed that, and you were, but it was 7 a.m. So there were definitely people who obviously weren't ready to do it. By 6 p.m, we were definitely getting ready for game 2. It was like, all right, that sucked. It was awful. There were people who were mad at Kenny, even in his shoot-around audio, which we have a clip coming up later on about what Kenny said about a former player, or what he kind of meant about a former player. But it was like, all right, it's time to get ready for game 2. Let's see where it is. Because there were also other things being said that were just unfair, not right. And when you say it in Cleveland, it's like, all right, maybe Kenny got a little out of sorts there. Maybe Kenny Carman. Maybe Ken got a little out of sorts there, but he still wants the Cavs to win. When I'm hearing Marcus Morris talk about the lack of leadership, you knocked this out of the park. I want to play this coming up at 7:23 or 6:23. You knocked it out of the park because some of the stuff that was being said was clearly outrageous with some of the stuff. And I didn't go out. It was sent to us. John collected it. Keith collected it. Owen said, there was so many things being sent to us because I didn't want to hear any of the national perspective because I knew there was going to be basically irresponsible stuff being said. And there was.
They talked as if the Cavs were the joke of the playoffs.
Well, they talked as if the season was already over.
The season's over, and what an all-time embarrassing basketball team. And I'm like, did they not just get all this praise for winning 2 Game 7s and battling all of that? That's not easy to do. That rarely happens that a team pulls that off.
I'm not trying to wave pom-poms at you guys, but when you guys hear this, I think you're going to stand with us going, all right, it's time to turn the page on this series and get ready for game 2 because you're about to hear something really silly. And I want Lima to explain why because he knocked it out of the park. It's at 6:23 on the Fan.
daily payout, you win even if they lose. Get paid out instantly when your team goes up big, even if they blow the lead later. Bet365. Winning is everything. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-MY-RESET. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Ohio.
This is where Cleveland fans turn to talk Cavs basketball. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight, 8 o'clock. Lima wants to ask me if I need to admit if it's officially weird. What is officially weird? We will tell you at 6:43. All right, you guys ready to rally around the Cavs? Because you're going to hear something that's going to want to make you rally around the Cavs. Here is Marcus Morris on Yahoo Sports Daily. Owen, hit it.
Two things I see with Cleveland, they don't have really good leadership as far as player-wise. Like, if you look at the James Harden team and the Donovan Mitchell team, they always had a guy on the bench somewhere where he was the vocal leader, where you call a timeout and you could see that guy showing passion and kind of bringing the team together. That's what I think that Cleveland is missing. But I can't put that on coaching. You have two guys that's going to be Hall of Famers. At some point, up 22, okay, now it dwindled down to 15. Okay, now it dwindled down to 10. Them two guys got to be able to settle the team down to get quality shots and make sure we have quality possessions. I think that's the big thing that they were missing. And I'm not going to put this on coaching. As a player, you know, we always want to say, well, he could have called better plays, but he's not on the court, right? If I got Donovan Mitchell and James Harden on the court with a 20-point lead, I feel great about that. When I'm saying pointing fingers, I'm saying that's the thing where our two superstars has to be in the room together and take ownership and say, yo, this was our fault, man. We can't allow our team to crumble like that up 20 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, are we serious?
Okay, the second part of that, I kind of agree with. I mean, you have two guards making a lot of money that are Hall of Famers, and both were gassed, and they couldn't settle the team down, and they couldn't. I know the Cavs had their own data that I did hear over the last 24 hours that they thought they got good shots in the fourth. I disagreed. I mean, I thought they looked gassed. I pointed to that air ball, that Donovan, that air ball floater. Yep. James took that step back, and his threes have all been right around the rim, and that one was an air ball like a foot long. Yep. I was like, oh no. Like, they are totally gassed. They don't trust themselves. The first part of that, I think, is just comical. Like, the leadership thing, it's so funny. When you have LeBron James on your team, and we sat here and debated his leadership style for better or for worse over time, and depending on the day, we talked about whether or not it was good leadership. But they had LeBron James. Like, he can put an end to that on offense and defense because he's LeBron James. He's really good. And then we're not talking about leadership. Like, if they get any of the stops, if Shamit's three ball doesn't crawl up like a spider from the bottom of the rim, are we talking about the lack of leadership, or are we saying, holy cow, the Cavs just went from two unbelievably adverse situations that they overcame in Game 7s against physical teams to then stealing Game 1 against the Knicks and silencing MSG for 3 hours? That's what we would have been saying.
Well, you know you're not going to hear that type of stuff from Tim Leggler, who is on the broadcast, and he will be on with us. Tim Leggler from ESPN. He is on with us coming up at 9 o'clock this morning. How do the Cavaliers bounce back in the series? I totally agree with you. I know yesterday we were literally at each other's throats at this time. I totally agree with you here. I think that was some of the biggest line of Bolsheviks I think I've heard in a while, because you're right. Had Sam Merrill's shot goes down, it is all, oh my God. The Cavs went into MSG. They played 2 games, just like you said. They had 2 7-game series. The Knicks have been waiting around on you for 9 days. Celebrities all over the place. Packed house, whole thing. New York, the whole bing bong thing. And you went in there and you got them. The 22-point lead being given up would be a talking point.
Oh, yeah.
It would be. And
rightfully
yes,
so.
And yes, if you and I were on WFAN in New York, I would look at this and go, well, they probably would overreact. But I would still go, hey, it's an 0-1 series, but you came back from a 22-point deficit. It's no sweat. I would say that. I guarantee I would.
And it's funny, too. It's
you are right about what you're saying.
It's also funny because it would have been, instead of James Harden, take him out, and then Karl Anthony Towns front and center.
You're right.
He is the national embarrassment to end all embarrassments. You're this big, and you had that little impact on the game. And then, you know what they would have said, too? Then it would have turned into James Harden made 2 clutch plays in the last 30 seconds. That's what they would have said.
I'm not trying to turn this into weird therapy here and explain what happened yesterday. I don't like coming over the table, but I'm not trying to overdo it. Let me tell you this. That's part of what went on. Because in my head, like, I didn't hear you say that the series was over against Detroit, all right? I didn't hear it. And I think a lot of people agreed with you, but they don't have a microphone in front of them. I was out of town. That was in my head, though. And that was in my head all night 2 nights ago. Last night. Because 2 nights ago. Because all I'm thinking of is I'm extremely disappointed and angry. It's also game one. It's also game one. In the St. the 2018 finals, I don't have that same type of feeling. It was almost where I was ambivalent, I got to tell you. And it was an expected, I didn't expect JR to forget the score, but it was kind of an expected outcome there. And I felt bad about it, and I was disappointed in the outcome there, but it wasn't like this because it's still the Eastern Conference Finals. And so I had to kind of go back and say, all right, is it the worst loss of the year? Absolutely the worst loss of the year. Worst loss in a long time, but it's still game one. So I can't overdo it and say that the series is over if I don't believe the series is over. And I don't, as mad as I am and as mad as I get and as red-faced and loud as I get, there's still a measure of some sanity that I'm trying to keep. And I think that we lose that. And we're trying to fill the space. We're trying to fill the time. In basketball, of all the sports, football has a little bit of this. Baseball doesn't have very much of it at all. Basketball of all the sports, everybody talks, everybody gets dramatic. And for a long time, these were super teams, big names. It was always, could it break up? Could it happen like that? And this is a team that very well could break up at the end of the year if things don't go our way over the next couple of days. That's absolutely true. But I think that we've kind of gotten used to some of the nasty things we've said and then ending up being true. Yeah, man, if they get swept, heads could very well roll. Kenny could be out of a job. That's all true. But it's still game one, and I just didn't think that that was a measured response by him.
Yeah, and I've seen plenty of teams that have guys vociferously, on the bench going nuts and finger pointing and talking and hyping and still lose games. Remember, this Knicks team coughed up a massive lead last year against the Indiana Pacers. It felt like in the NBA, I did now 22. That's a horse of a different color, no doubt. Like that was really bad.
I understand.
That was all time bad. Like if we lose this series, if it's close, we're going to be looking at that one forever. If they just get swept, I don't know. I mean, maybe people will say that's why they got swept is because they got off to a rough start in game one. I'd say, well, you got bigger problems, obviously, than that. But,
absolutely true.
But this is pretty indicative of today's NBA, where in the playoffs, you're seeing bigger and bigger leads get erased.
And you're seeing these big opinions, and I'm looking at it going, it's not true. It's not true. Like, at one point, 1 versus 8, that's a snoozer. And the playoffs didn't really start until the second round. Now you have more balanced teams, and you're seeing number 1 seed struggle a little bit. You're seeing a team like the Sixers, who I just left for dead because of the injuries back in February. Yeah, they come out and they get a first-round series. And then people thought that they were going to be hot. Oh, yeah, you lose Joel Embiid, and this is what happened against the Knicks. Same thing with the Knicks, for crying out loud. I mean, you go back, and I hate to keep giving plugs, but it is a sister station. I listen to FAN every now and then, and they were hating the Knicks a couple of months ago. Absolutely hating the Knicks. Comparing
a month ago when they were losing to Atlanta in the first round, 4 weeks ago.
Comparing Mike Brown directly to Tom Thibodeau, what Mike Brown does wrong compared to what Tom Thibodeau did right, why James Dolan's the biggest goofball in sports, all those things were being said. And now, hey, they're 3 wins away from getting to the NBA Finals. We're 4 away from getting to the NBA Finals, and that's basically where it stands. Like, you had every single right as a Cavs fan to be mad and upset about what had happened on Tuesday night. You have every single right to still be disappointed about that. I think you don't need my permission. It's a natural reaction. But to say, well, they don't have leadership. This is because of leadership. I mean, is it, or did we just not call a timeout? Did we just not call a timeout?
I think people do, but I'll tell you.
Is it, or did shots stop falling? Yeah. Is it, or if Sam Merrill hits the shot, again, what I just tell you 3 minutes ago?
Well, they're saying how the Cavs were able to overcome adversity again, blowing that lead and still not giving up.
Yes.
But instead, the shot doesn't go, and then in overtime, they look like they quit.
What were you going to say? I asked you a question.
But it's about them being gassed. I just think that, you could have a guy go rah, 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 scream and yell on the sidelines. Does that necessarily end the run? Do you think the Cavs players didn't know that this was going south? You don't think the panic alarms were sounding? I think they probably were wishing the head coach could use some of his tools at his disposal
and some people
to try to stop that.
And some people, because, we're on the Odyssey app, so people were listening after. You're not a guy bringing it up. Because social media reactions are brought to you by
Shibe & Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
6:35 and 10 seconds for those scoring at home. I had a couple people come in and defend Kenny Atkinson, going, hey, you're beating him up too much. He can't play for him. I go, you're absolutely right, he can't play for him. But when you leave
But we didn't ask him to go out there
need to make it bigger
and make a basket.
Yes.
We asked him to do one thing and one thing only. See what's happening on the floor and figure out a way to stop it.
And guys, timeouts they can be overrated. Yelling just to take a timeout ain't going to fix anything. I mean, you could have all the timeouts in the world. If your team sucks and they're getting boat race, they ain't going to help you. But it does need to be mentioned, like, you can only take 2 timeouts in the final 3 minutes. So you do have, if you have more than 2 timeouts, those are called use it or lose it timeouts now. That is a difference here that we've seen in the past. So if you have 2 timeouts in your pocket or 1 timeout in your pocket before 3 minutes, you're going to lose that timeout. So when you lose that timeout, when you're in the middle of giving up a 22-point lead, ain't going to sit well with the fans. Okay, it's a mistake. You can't take it with you. Okay, you're not King Tut in his tomb. So there's nothing you can do other than take the timeout, try to get it fixed. I wouldn't have blamed him for I would have supported him in putting James Harden back out there because you need him for a full 7-game series. And where Marcus Morris is right, he's a future Hall of Famer. So you can't just give up on your Hall of Famer who you traded for and traded a big piece for, a controversial piece for. You can't just trade him and then put him on the bench and then expect to go out there and win a series. You'll give up on each other. I would have seen it that way. It's just you should have called a timeout. You didn't call a timeout. We'll see where it goes tonight. I just don't think you're going to be in the middle of a 18-1 run and then a 30-8 run and things like that at this point. 216-474-0092. Tim Leggler going to join us at 9:01 today. How do the Cavs bounce back in this series? And Lima, you asked me. Tell me what you said I might have to admit coming up here in 5 minutes.
Can we be honest here? It's officially weird in Berea about one thing in particular.
Mental gymnastics from me in 5 on the Fan.
we doing the install. So if you show up, if deposit, the way I talk is, if you show up, a deposit is due every day. You either getting paid or you owe somebody. That's how I talk. So my job, we gonna get paid every single day. If you out there on the field with me, you getting paid or you getting your ass off. So Rudy know that, and so that's why he brought me here, because he ain't got to be in the huddle and he ain't got to be on the field. He know for a fact what it's going to look like out there, and there's going to be speed, and violence, and that's how I want my defense.
We're not here to play tiddlywinks, buddy.
And
Daryl.
That sounds like the defensive coordinator.
It's nice.
Speed and violence.
That is Quincy Williams.
Quincy Williams, your new veteran linebacker, brother Quinnen Williams. That's fun. That's fun to hear. Do you like that?
The beauty of football, too, is that you can say something like that. Violence. You know, just good old-fashioned violence. In this world where we have to sanitize everything we say, it's like, no, we're bringing the speed, we're bringing the violence.
I enjoy it. 216-474-0092. I don't know why I had to say I enjoy it. Everybody knows I enjoy it. I just like it when guys talk like that. Because it's only June, or it's only May.
That'll get people pumped up, for sure.
Oh, now I got to make the reference. You remember when the Browns would be struggling and Miles would get up on the mic and go, we got 11 games left to go. And Quincy Williams is like, We're going. We're not kind of sort of installing, baby. We're installing. We got to go. Which, all right, leads us to Todd Monkin being ass yesterday, which the audio ain't going to do it justice. You guys got to go to the fan on social media. The video's up there, right on?
Yes.
All right. You really got to see the Monk man's face when he's asked about talking to Myles Garrett.
Just for the record, have you had any face-to-face with Garrett yet?
Myles?
Yeah.
No.
All right, go ahead. Let's go.
So I asked Ken before the show, I go, it's officially weird, right?
We'll get back to Cavs coming up here soon. Tim Leggler going to join us at 9.
And I'm not even saying it's weird that we've already talked to death about him and what he's going to attend. And we all agree he's still going to probably get 15, 17, 20, 30 sacks, whether or not he shows to any of this stuff or not. That we all agreed on. These two still haven't gotten together?
But you're making it out to be.
Myles?
Yeah.
No.
I remember when I brought this up a month ago, and people were like, Lima's just on the air lying. Of course they've met. Because you guys realized how ridiculous it was. You're like, of course they've met.
Can we stop calling each other liars all the time? Do we do that? Not you and me.
When's the last time I called you a liar?
Yesterday? Well, you've said I'm lying to myself all the time.
We have to go all the way back to yesterday.
I think you're about to tell me I'm lying to myself
you can
here
use
in a
that
second.
rewind feature, too, if you want.
No, I'm working on my bedside manner.
I find shut up. Don't work on your
bedside manner. When I saw
manner.
yesterday's clip circulated to Outkick coverage.
Fox News.
I'm like, is that a fair representation of our relationship? I think not.
They were on the 5 talking about the Strait of Hormuz, and then right after it was you and me screaming at each other.
Gutfeld got in there, had some zingers.
Oh, God. All right.
Anyway.
Go ahead. Come on. Let's go.
About a month ago, I was saying, they haven't. I've talked to people. They have not. They've met years ago when he was actually a coach here. But since he's been hired as the new head coach of the Browns, they have not been in the same room together. And people are like, Lima's just lying. Of course they've got.
Which is odd.
Of course the coach and the best player on the planet, best defensive player on the planet, one of the best in the league. Of course they've met. No, they haven't. I told you guys a month ago they hadn't. And now, if you thought it was weird and thought I was lying a month ago, you can't today say no big deal. You can't be the same person. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I didn't think you were lying.
You didn't. No, you didn't.
Okay.
But there were definitely people calling me out.
I find it hard. When was Todd hired? Late January? End of January?
Correct.
He hadn't been sitting here for 4 months pouting.
No.
Well, he hadn't been sitting here, but he hasn't been traveling the world and going to the Olympics and all the pouting that Jim Schwartz didn't get the job. Like, that's why I just think that this is overblown. And you and many others are going to accuse me of sticking my head in the sand. Fine, 216-474-0092. But I just don't believe that a grown man is going to sit there and pout that his defensive coordinator didn't get the head coaching job. Now, you can go in, and if things go off the rails here this year, you could always say you told him so. You always can do that, because I'm sure there's been plenty of times where Miles said, I told him this and that and the other, and it didn't work out. A lot of people do that. It is a little odd that they haven't seen each other. All right? I will grant you that. I will say that. I will go that far.
And Miles was in town.
But I don't think
Miles was here.
He went to a basketball game.
Yes.
Well, the arena
He's got
is
his responsibilities, yes.
The Cavs are not moving to Brook Park. Okay, the Browns are moving to Brook Park. There's differences here. He had to go downtown. Brook Park, as everybody said when they're building the new stadium, it's like 30 miles down the road. Yeah, maybe you couldn't get down the road. Now, I'm making excuses and trying to be funny. That's true. Is this just not the Miles we know? Doesn't make it great and comfortable, but...
No, the funny thing is it is. That is true. That is true. He's being consistent.
Guys, with Miles, I've just learned to be comfortable with a guy who just doesn't do it by the book of football. We all grew up. If you're my age, you watch the program. Well, that had another set of circumstances to it, but you end in high school. You're taught all the rah-rah stuff. Family, this, that, and the other. And at that level, it's absolutely important. It is. And I do think at the NFL level, to a degree, it's important. But for a guy who's that good, when it comes down to your business and making money and other people money, what can I say to the guy? He's not a bad guy. It's not like he's out there and you got to stay up at night wondering what he's doing. So this is where this conversation always goes, and it goes into a brick wall with me. It is odd that he hasn't spoken to anybody there, but Miles is a bit of an odd duck. Sorry. If he was a bust or if he was a disappointment, well, he wouldn't still be here. But if he were a bust or a disappointment, then I guess I'd have a problem with it, Tone. But I'm not having a problem with it. And if you think I'm sticking my head in the sand, I'd like to know from people why. Because it's just, to me, it's the same behavior we've always seen. It's the same thing. I'm sorry.
I just wonder if the defense, for whatever reason, and look, the new defensive coordinator, you watch him and how into it he is, and it kind of is aligned with the clip that we played from Williams. I mean, he is getting after it. Like, I think people are gonna love him, unless the defense, for whatever reason, takes a step back.
But that's part of
which they shouldn't on paper. They shouldn't take a step back.
That.
But if they do, we're all going to be looking, especially if it's part of the reason they're losing games. If they're losing games, like, people are going to wonder, how does Miles feel about this?
But that's interesting.
Because they didn't hire the guy that Miles wanted.
Obviously, we're going to do that. But it's also, that's Quincy Williams' role. Quincy Williams we said this as when he was with the Jets. Remember, we played the Jets last year, and they were talking about him, and he accepted a lot of things like a man and was a stand-up person about it. And that was something we remembered. And then you bring in Mike Rutenberg, and he's bringing in Quincy Williams. We're like, okay, let's bring in this guy who, again, takes that Anthony Walker role, sadly has to maybe take that JOK role, not on the field in the terms of play. That would be more Carson Schlesinger, but it would still be more that, hey, I'm going to be a leader role. I'm going to be the guy that talks every day to the media role. That's kind of what Quincy Williams is. Miles is not expected to fill that role. And I don't think that Miles has done anything that would blatantly sabotage what the Cleveland Browns are doing. That's why I have to defend Miles. It is a different way to do things. It is not the classic way of everybody get together, give a great big speech, get them all going, let's do this, let's win. It's not like that. It is not really like that with Myles Garrett. And I think he's toyed with the notion before. I don't know if he really knows how to do it. Him not being there, it's a little weird. Him not meeting Monkin, I should say, is a little weird. But it's not off-putting to me because it's probably the same way he's conducted his business over the last several years.
Did they have to, when he finally does get in town, do they have to have dinner like Walter White and Gus Fring? They have to break bread quite literally?
Finally, a reference I don't know. Coming up at 9 o'clock, Tim Leggler.
In the same way.
Going to join us on the show, ESPN basketball analyst.
Kenny, his face gets blown off.
He is covering this for ESPN. Yeah. Well, not faces getting blown off. He is covering Game 2 for ESPN.
Will keep all of his face.
Mary Kay Cabot coming up at 8:20. Well, there's still 3 more hours to go in the show. And in 5 minutes, it's only May 21st. We got Cavs coming up at 7:20, I promise you that. But it's only May 21st. Is it already time to call the race in Berea? Ken Carman, Anthony Lima. If you're on your way to work, take us with you on the free Odyssey app, and then watch us on YouTube for absolutely free when you're at work.
This
obviously Deshaun it seemed like a lot of the first team reps, at least early on. Can you kind of establish what the game plan has been with how you want to run the reps with them this OTA?
Well, actually today, Deshaun, when we two-spot, we divide up Shedeur and Deshaun. So when it was two-spotted, we just keep the guys in the same spot. Actually, Shedeur took the first team reps the rest of practice.
Can you say which of the quarterbacks is ahead at this point?
No.
That's Todd Monkin yesterday asked about the quarterbacks coming up at 7:22. It's only game 2, but tonight feels like it could be do or die for many Cavs fans. Tim Leggler going to join us at 9:01 this morning. How do the Cavs bounce back tonight in game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals? Also, Mary Kay is going to be on at 8:20. Is it time to call the QB race? I want to ask you that question, Anthony Lima. I still don't want to call the QB race, but
that seems silly to do in May.
You say it's silly in May, but man, where there's smoke, there seems to always be fire here. And I thought it might. The reason I'm not going to call it quarterback race because, one, I want Shedeur to start. If it's this QB room, I want Shedeur to be the starter for all the reasons I've stated for you in the past. The second thing is I told you it was going to be this way. We've been asked this question a million times before, and you agreed with me, and you've told people it's going to be this way. One guy's been a veteran in the league. They're in T-shirts and shorts. Also, and I got a couple of weird texts about this. Was it Monday I said it to you, or which day was it? Tuesday? It was probably Tuesday because we were getting ready for game 1. And so we had a little bit of time to do a couple of other things because, oddly enough, when teams go to the Eastern Conference Finals, when the Guardians win 5 in a row, Browns do go on the back burner. I know people on Reddit aren't going to say that, according to what you tell me, but still. It is imperative to know that, yeah, man, there's going to be, I don't think the leaks are in the building necessarily there's always going to be PR. There's always going to be a guy like David Mulugeta, who's the most powerful agent in the world, who has people working for him. And there's going to be conversation out there. I mean, insiders don't get stuff stuff in the building as much as we think. It's a lot of agent work. It's a lot of hangers-on, PR guys, things like that. It doesn't mean that there is this, you use the term orchestrated. It's not like there's this big campaign of misinformation out there. A lot of it's common sense. One guy has played at an MVP level before. Now, that was many, 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 many years ago, and he's had many, many, many injuries since. But the other guy's going into year 2. And Todd Monkin is the perfect recipe. I told you before. It's a 60-year-old head coach who's got one shot to do this. Why wouldn't the veteran be in the lead for the quarterback job? A lot of it's just sense. And as much as it bothers me, because I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on from Watson and move on to something younger and fun. And maybe it's Shedeur, maybe it's somebody in the 2027 draft. But I'm ready to move on. But I'm going to have to just accept, if it comes down to it, that the head coach of the football team made the decision that he thought was right by the football team. And it does seem premature on May 21st, but just because it's premature doesn't mean it's wrong.
It was very interesting to see because I had a buddy in town yesterday, and so I was kind of away from all the analysis of the reps, and then I got home and just flipped on social media, and I see people losing their minds over the reps, debating. The best is they debated Zach Jackson on what he saw. Like, Zach is there covering, just like Daryl is there, Mary Kay is there covering, all the great reporters in town. They're watching, and all they're doing is just passing the information on. I can guarantee you, Zach doesn't really care, about this stuff, because I talked to him on the phone, and people are...
Well, knowing Zach, he probably thinks very little of both.
Well, he does. Yeah, he does,
he really
obviously. He doesn't think much of this quarterback room right now.
Yeah.
But they're debating with Zach what he saw. And Zach's like, hey, here... Okay, Watson threw this many passes, and Shedeur threw an interception. And people are like, well, Watson threw an interception too. And he's like, no, I'm here. He did not, in 7-on-7, throw an interception. And they're like, well, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And he's like, no, I'm here. I'm watching. I can guarantee you. I will put my family on the line to tell you this. And they're debating. So they can't even, there are factions of this fan base that can't grant that one quarterback might have had a better day than the other. In 7-on-7, guys, if you can't handle 7-on-7 reporting, then you might as well just cover your ears and close your eyes during training camp.
I think that's probably what a lot are going to do.
Holy cow.
I do think that because we've gotten to a point where if someone tells us what we don't want to hear, we accuse that person of lying to us. And I don't want to hear that Deshaun Watson's the leader here. I don't want to have these conversations again. I'm ready to move on. I really am. I'll deal with it. If he's the better quarterback, they got to try to win. So fine. But I'm not going to call Zach a liar. I've known Zach for 20 years. I think Zach's a liar? Zach ain't no liar. I know Mary Kay for 14 years. She ain't no liar. I've known Todd Monkin for, a couple of conversations and then passing him in the hallway in 2019. Todd ain't no liar. So I'm not going to just call people liars just because they said something I didn't like. You're telling me a bunch of stuff about Myles Garrett. That's your opinion about whether or not it's weird that he hasn't talked to Todd Monkin, and I'm getting a bunch of texts from somebody else here at the Fan getting all worked up because they think I'm burying my head in the sand, and I just think it's apples and oranges about the comparison that they're making. But it's not. I'm not going to call that guy a liar.
Yeah, so this is great. So yesterday, after the interception or whatever, Todd wasn't happy with some of what he saw in 7-on-7. I love hearing this because this is the time you want to hear this. I don't want to hear this during the season because I hope that's not the way things are shaking when the bullets are actually flying. But here's Todd Monkin.
The defense was able to have a couple heads-up picks, knock the ball out a couple times. Did you like their aggression in this session today?
Yeah. We threw interceptions in 7-on-7, for God's sakes. I mean, who does that? There's no pass rush. I mean, it's embarrassing.
I mean, and yeah, that's kind of the state of affairs right now in that quarterback room, unfortunately. And look, you're going to get honest Todd. And
I want him to win so bad.
Don't turn on him now.
He's so much more fun than Kevin was, and I like Kevin.
Nobody better get mad that he's saying that stuff now because this is the time. Honestly, this is the time where these mistakes, they need to be coached out. And I'm sure it is embarrassing to a head coach. I'm also sure this happens all the time. I mean, he's saying that. I think Todd talks in extremes, and this is the time to sort that stuff out. I mean, I have no problem with that at all. I love hearing it from him. I do. Especially, look, it's been 6 years, and I'm not going to do the thing where everything Kevin Stefanski did for 6 years was bad. Like, because that's silly. The guy had this team at a level we hadn't seen in a long time. Yeah. So let's not act like everything he did was wrong. But after 6 years of hearing Kevin talk one way, all right, here's your change of pace. By the way, this would get old after 6 years. If you're not winning games.
Is Jeremy Fowler on the list of people who we take seriously when it comes to the
I believe
who's
so.
the starting quarterback? I think he is actually written on the list here. Let me pull it out. But
I believe he's made the list.
In the meantime, here is Jeremy Fowler about that QB race on afternoon drive, that competition. What say you, Jeremy?
It kind of feels like a little bit of a soft launch, but I don't necessarily think the Browns are planting seeds there. I think this is how it's developing, and you have a veteran in the building who's played a lot of football and has once upon a time played at a high level. For a first-year coach, that can be helpful. So at the same time, the people I talked to in the building leading up to when the story ran said, we've barely done anything. It's early May. There's a lot that has to play out. Days like today are important because you're getting reps among 4 quarterbacks. So they're out there doing that. And I think in the next couple of weeks, Todd Monkin will have at least a better idea of where he might be leaning. It's just that Deshaun, with the credentials and the way he has responded to the Achilles injury, and seems to be in a good place mentally and physically, would give him the edge. You know, I think in the simplest form, Deshaun is a more qualified quarterback than Shedeur Sanders at this stage. But that doesn't mean Shedeur can't take the job over the next weeks and months.
And you know who I'm rooting for in that case. Here's more with Jeremy Fowler on Deshaun's standing in the QB battle.
Is this a quarterback that's going to be a little bitter based on getting booed before, not always being welcome because of obvious reasons? You have the off-field stuff, and you have the poor play, and you have the injuries. I was told no, that there's really no bitterness there. And he liked his experience in Cleveland. He had a better relationship with Kevin Stefanski than some might think. It just wasn't quite an offensive scheme fit, where Todd Monkin's offense offers a little more there as far as spread offense concepts, the ability to move around, read and react. I think he's probably at his best when he's improvising a little bit, which at this stage in his career, I don't know how much of that he can do. So that's where, when the real bullets are flying in the season, if he is the starter, he's going to have to answer that. You know, does he still have the talent and the ability to create and to be an artist there a little bit, which when he was at his best in Houston, when he could do some of that, improvising with DeAndre Hopkins and some of his weapons. So he's got to prove that he still has that ability.
So that's Jeremy Fowler on it. Now, Jeremy Fowler's given the lead to Deshaun Watson. I'm not ready to call it a race.
I would hope not. It's May 21st, guys.
You and I both say that. Here is Mike Garofalo, NFL Network on BetMGM Radio, which is, I believe, an Odyssey.
What do you think the percent chance is Deshaun Watson is the week 1 starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in like 30 to 45 seconds? Right?
101. Yeah, I've
no matter what happens, as long as he's healthy, he's going to start.
I mean, if he looks horrendous in camp and preseason, right, which I don't think he will, but no, I've said – I think I phrased it back in March that he's in the pole position. Everything I heard out of the Combine, Senior Bowl week, I remember talking to a guy, and they were like, look, Deshaun Watson's going to start for this team. You guys know that, right? But there'll be a competition for it to play out. But I think in the end, Deshaun Watson, I know Deshaun Watson's going to start for this team.
Damn. 101%. There's only 100%.
Okay.
He's giving you an extra.
Am I wrong in...
He's doing Steiner math.
The fact that it's Jeremy Fowler, it's, Garofalo here, Garofalo. Okay, so Jimmy Garoppolo. The fact
get
that
her opinion on who's
the fact that the more and more these guys that, quite frankly, can pick up the phone and talk to people within the Browns organization, because
I also think they're talking to people within other people's camps.
Okay. Well, wait. You still think this is just coming from one quarterback's camp?
No, not all of it.
Because I don't.
Because I'm probably trying to make myself feel better.
I think that is pretty telling. Especially because what has there really been to see out of Deshaun Watson? Like, where has he been able to make these huge impressions on the new head coach? Like, pretty clearly, Todd Monkin came here and had in his mind, and maybe this is what he pitched to get the job, guys. I think we have to wonder about that.
You remember the text I got.
Well, I think he must have come in, and part of the sell job to make him stand out over Udinese, who were the other guys that were up at Steelhouse?
Right.
Steelhouse.
Stop.
Okay, he must have gotten in there and said, hey, I know that you feel that your investment is sunk cost. I can get something out of this.
I don't think it was that. I don't think it was. I think it was more, you can't just go in there and say, that guy doesn't work. Well, I'm sorry, you're supposed to be a head coach, and we got to get him to point A to point B because we can't just take a quarterback out of this draft and move on with him. So I think that he was probably talking about all the quarterbacks that he could get out of him. And maybe he was honest and said, hey, there's guys that I can get more out of than others. And when you're looking at one guy who, again, it was 6 freaking years ago, one guy who played at a high level in the NFL, they're playing in T-shirts and shorts. So we can call it a quarterback competition, but naturally, wouldn't it be more rigged? Rigged's a terrible word. Wouldn't it go more towards Deshaun Watson? So some of this stuff is, again, I don't like hearing it, but I have to accept it because it just seems to be more closer to the truth than what it would be. I mean, if you were the head coach of the Browns, who do you give the inside track to? The veteran, right? If I'm the head coach of the Browns, I give the inside track to the veteran, the guy who's played it at a high level before in the NFL for a longer period of time. That's what I would do. And I don't think it's about paying off some investment or anything like that. It is a sunk cost. I think they just want to win football games. Because I told you before, if he goes out there and he plays well, guys, we got a whole other set of circumstances here because I don't think he's going to want to be here. And so if he plays well again, we're going to go through it all. I mean, hell, we're chewing the fat on Miles every other day, whether or not he wants to be here. I know one guy I don't think wants to be here whatsoever. And if he plays well and he can find a way out of here and continue his NFL career, brother, he's going to be on the first train out of town. And so we're going to be left having a big conversation about that. So there are ramifications from it, but you changed out the head coach. Everybody hated the head coach, said there needed to be a change, fine. But you went out and you hired a 60-year-old man who needs to win now. He don't care about any of that other stuff. So you're going to get what you hired. 216-474-0092. Mary Kay going to join us at 8:20. Coming up next, Game 2 is tonight. Eastern Conference Finals. Tim Leggler is on the broadcast team on ESPN. He's going to join us at 9:01. And coming up in 5 minutes, it's only Game 2. But tonight does feel like it could be do or die for a lot of Cavs fans out there. Is it? Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan.
I know a lot of you have jam-packed.
knock off Toronto 4-0. Monsters now lead that North Division Finals 2-1. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Mary Kay Cabot, 8:20. Tim Leggler, 9 o'clock. Now, I want to get back to Game 2 coming up here in just a moment. And whether or not it's do or die for the Cavs. Because I don't know if it is, considering I know Game 1 sucked the way it ended. You were down 2-0 against Detroit, and you were not favored against Detroit. So let's not go crazy here. It's been a different playoffs than what we're used to in the NBA playoffs, all right? Let me go to you for a second, though. Because you complained about... Don't name names.
No,
Don't
never.
name names.
Never.
Tell everybody your gripe.
So I used to have a very under-the-radar Sammy spot. That was perfect for lunch, right? And I was like, man, this hits the spot every time. Maybe get a little bag of chips and call it a day. And I was taken care of. The price met the quality. It was awesome. And
Price met the quality.
And it was never a huge line. So it was just, like I said, under the radar. And I remember I was in this part of the city about 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do, I told my wife, hey, forget about the leftovers. I'm going to do this for lunch. We always communicate our lunches. It's very, very important, very strategic. We don't want any food to go unused. But in this case,
I hate it when I call her when I head home between like here and 8, and I go, what do you want? And then it's just this thing. And I'm like, I'm driving. Can you?
Yeah, we're doing this.
Can you?
Let's go. Let's
God.
go. Let's go. So we're trying to optimize all the food situation, but on this one day, little cheat, I'm like, I'm going to go say hi to my old friends. And I got the sandwich, brought it home, and unwrapped it. And I looked and I said, oh, man, I know prices are up on everything. I know food costs are insane. And what are these people supposed to do? But there was nothing on the sandwich. And I said, man, I probably would have paid just more money. Like, just raise the price.
Can I ask you,
I know it's a scary thing to do, but I'm like, I'm not going back there with this sandwich.
What's
not
the normal?
happening.
What's the normal price it's been in the past for a sandwich there at this place? So we're not going to name them.
Yeah. That was probably $9.99.
$9.99. $10. $10. Okay,
sounds about the going rate.
Yeah.
So it was a thick, full sandwich. I've seen Lima is actually a sandwich maven. I've seen his hand-built, homemade sandwiches. Back in the day when I was at night and you were doing 2020s.
Used to have the artisan bread.
Yeah, Lima made some great-looking sandwiches. I never actually got to taste it, but they looked fantastic.
I was my own sandwich artist.
Yes, it was really nice. So $10 for this sandwich.
Yeah.
Now, the same sandwich, same stuff, thick, full, the way it used to be, right?
Yeah.
Would you pay $12
Yeah,
for that
I would have.
sandwich?
Especially
Okay.
if I'm there. If I'm there and you've got me in line, I'm a captive audience.
This is where I totally agree with you, and this is where I think people are getting it wrong. Now I'm going to name a name. How much is a Slyman's corned beef?
Whatever it is, I pay it.
It's like over $25.
Over 20. John knows because we sent him to Slyman's. It's been a while since I've been there. Over $25. You get a Slyman's roast beef, the corned beef, unpaid testimonial, friends. You're going to eat on it for 2 days.
Maybe 3.
It's going to turn into the
Someone
Homer.
like me.
It's going to turn into the Homer Simpson sandwich, where you're just in bed with it because you're still going to eat on it.
And I do the math. I quickly divide by 3 days, and I'm like, all right, this meal cost 8 something. This meal cost 8 something.
So the sandwich ain't necessarily cheap, but you're getting what you pay for in so many ways.
A pound and a half of meat.
If you'll pay, people get this wrong with the American people. If it's more and they like it, they'll pay for it. If they feel they've been cheated, they're just going to stop going.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the sports principle. If you like what the Browns are doing, you'll pay and go to the new stadium. If you don't like what the Browns are doing, you ain't going to go. And you could offer them all the tickets in the world, and people are going to go,
perks.
yeah, it's the holidays, ain't going to go. It's the same thing in sports as it is with sandwiches.
And listen, I'm totally sympathizing. I get it. They don't want sticker shock. They don't want the price to be the reason, a barrier for entry. But when you're hungry and you want a good sandwich,
but if you go,
I'm like, man, I'm just going to make my own now. I'm not going to go there if they're not actually filling up the sandwich.
But what do you say to your friend if they never try to place that you can get a sandwich? Hey, listen, I know it's a little pricey. You got to taste the sandwich.
And then you'll do
Once
it.
you taste the sandwich.
You will do it.
And then you go back. You go back. Quality is still job one. which is an old Ford commercial, to be honest with you. I've just remembered that. That just stopped into my mind there.
It's amazing the marketing.
Like a rock.
Oh, my gosh, yes. Bob Seger's walking down the street right now. Is a $10 sandwich before?
Yeah.
You pay $12 for it.
Yeah.
If anybody runs a sandwich place out there, this is the experience of what it needs to be. Because I find it myself. And there's places I will not go because if you're flush with cash or you don't have a lot of cash, you still look at it and you go, what am I getting here? I'm not getting anything good. It's the same thing as when you watch the Browns. It's the same thing as when you watch baseball and everything else.
Do we sound silly trying to tell small business owners how to run their place?
Yes.
How's that silly? Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong.
It's just I know it's like, hey, you gotta meet your customers halfway. And at the same time, somebody is going, do you know what cheese costs right now?
Well, wait a minute.
Do you know what the shipping and those cheese people, and I gotta pass that off?
But I understand that. I'm going to bring up the Cavs here in just a second. But if you've been to the place a bunch of times, you get to know the people like, yeah, we got out the price for this. Everything's going up. It's like, yeah, it sucks. And maybe there's people who won't go back. But if it's still good, it's still good. You're going to keep going back. And maybe you might treat yourself a little bit less. Just the same thing when it comes to a lot of things. But you're still going to do it. All right, Cavaliers game 2 tonight. Is it do or die?
I thought Detroit game 2 was do or die. And so, yeah, I feel like tonight. Now, I know that sounds silly because they came back and won 4 of 5. But the level of play also goes up. The level of competition is going up every single round. So I'm taking that into consideration. Like the Knicks, while we were right there on firm footing with them, I did not think the Knicks had some huge advantage over us. Like all the people that picked the Knicks in 5, maybe you thought their mental fortitude was higher, but who was saying that about the Knicks in the fourth quarter when it was a 22-point game? Who was commending, any of their mental fortitude? So I do feel like you got to kind of win tonight. I do. And I know, look, if it doesn't happen.
Oh, now we're doing must win?
But I said it against
Which
Detroit.
Which technically is the same way to say do or die. I just didn't realize it. I wanted to know from you because I'm surprised by your opinion. Because you said that last series was done 0-2,
and
apparently.
I was proven wrong.
And you were proven wrong. Literally, the Cavs are in the next round of the playoffs. I don't believe that. I don't believe it's over if they lose tonight. I'm going to be concerned. I don't believe it's over if they lose tonight. They got to come back on Saturday. They lose on Saturday, then, you're going to get a different answer from me coming up on, we won't get a chance to talk about it because it's Monday.
But isn't part of it, Kenny, after seeing our guys worn down at the end of the game, isn't that part of it? Like, we're playing every other day. And I know now the Knicks are too, but you can see the mileage piling up. Like, why is...
But you were up by 22. If you would have just done something a little differently and made one little adjustment, if you would have been a little bit luckier, we're not saying this.
I know, but because they lost the game... Now, obviously, this is even more important, and part of it is I'm looking at James Harden, right? Like, I was worried about certain aspects of this series and James Harden. I was upfront about that as someone who wanted the trade, but, I recognize as this gets further along, it's a lot of mileage piling up for James. And I know typically in the past, James plays his horrible Game 6 or horrible Game 7, and his team's eliminated. Here he played the horrible Game 1, and now he's got the whole series still in front of him. How does he recover? Is he going to be able to turn back the clock? I know he played 2 horrible games in Detroit to start out, and then, 3, 4, and 5, he was awesome. So I'm curious to see how he rebounds. Because
that's interesting. I don't know how much I'm expecting out of James Harden, and I don't want to ask Tim Leggler that coming up at 9.
Like, I am curious why the threes aren't falling. Like, he's getting the looks, and with the exception of the one I pointed out in the fourth quarter that he airmailed, as they were all in panic mode, and they were like, somebody stop the bleeding. Here's a grenade. You take it, you take it, you take it. And he took it, and he missed by a long shot. All of them have looked good to me. I don't know why they're not falling. He was a 40% three-point shooter this year. Is it that he's gassed? Is it the 36-year-old?
He was sitting around in Los Angeles.
What happened to Tobias Harris at the end of that series? Is that happening right now to James Harden? That's what I'm worried about.
216-474-0092. I want to look that up, but I got to get to Peter in East Lake first. Hello, Peter.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey. Hi.
It's not a do or die game. There's up to 6 games left to be played. They have to win 4 of them. It's not an elimination game. I understand everyone's emotional based on how they could have and should have won that game on the other night, but it's over. It's done with. It's 1-0 in the series. There's 6 games, potentially 6 games left to play.
See, I agree. I agree, but you got to push it further now, Peter. Like, I don't know if you're going to call in tomorrow, right? So say if they don't win today, and then I come on tomorrow and I say that the series isn't over, how many people are going to say we're doing the liar show today?
Oh, well,
how many people are going to say I'm lying to myself?
You work in sports radio. You're going to have every caller call in and say that the series is over. If they win, if the Cavs lose tonight, the series still isn't over because they'll still have a chance to win 2 games at Madison Square Garden or 1 game at Madison Square Garden. Like, it's not over. It's not over till it's over, guys.
Peter,
it's just not.
Listen, I should be informed by what happened, obviously, last series.
Peter, thank you for the call.
Part of it is, like, are we going to have a 22-point lead again in this series? Probably not,
no.
Right? So you had so many forces working in your direction. I know we still didn't shoot the ball that well. That's the crazy thing. So maybe I should hold out hope that what happens when we actually shoot the ball well, we maybe have a more sustainable situation. But it's hard to fathom they're going to have that kind of lead again in this series. And so the wasted opportunity, I'm hoping that doesn't come back to haunt us in that way. We were defending. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, like I said, that was a Dwayne Wade defensive performance from a smaller guard.
Yeah.
Like that was insane, the force. They keep using the term the force that he was operating at defensively. But I also think, did that lead to him getting gassed?
We do what ifs all the time. What if it is a 15-point loss? What if it just isn't very competitive and they go out there and they just lose by 15 and we're getting ready for Saturday? Do I change my mind then? Because I don't think it's over. And you're saying are you saying it is over if they lose tonight?
Yeah, I'll come on tomorrow if they lose and say, well, that's probably it.
Well,
I'm still going to go to game. I'm still going to go Saturday. And yes, when I get in the arena, I'll be pumped. That's how it works. I'm a basketball fan. The realist in me that hosts a show that tries to be honest with the fan base, like, yeah, I kind of feel like they got to win one tonight, especially now the way they lost in game 1.
216-474-0092. Kenny Atkinson was talking yesterday about a lot of this stuff. I feel that when you have the type of game that happens yesterday or happens a couple days ago, you really need to come out and you need to prove yourself again. Because when you're playing in the postseason, we played the Marcus Morris stuff in the first hour of the show. I mean, that was as rough as it gets. But also, Kenny Atkinson is taking a little bit of heat because every time he opens up his mouth, it seems that he's sticking his foot into it with some people. Here is Kenny Atkinson, and this is a little spicy.
I want to just lean on the positive. We had 3 quarters of really good basketball. Some of the best basketball we've honestly played in the playoffs, especially offensively and defensively. Really good. And in the fourth quarter, I'd say looking back on it, the fourth quarter, what I'm probably more disappointed about it was our offense. Shot quality wasn't great. We weren't getting to the rim. I think we took 9 threes. Thought we could have gotten to the rim more and put more pressure on them at the rim.
Now, there's another clip of Kenny Atkinson that we're going to play for you later on in the show because it's even spicier than that. But I was hearing a lot of people yesterday on that clip get very upset with, you didn't play a full 4 quarters. You didn't play in overtime. Stop bringing up the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, nobody cares.
And
nobody cares when you blow that kind of a lead.
I do think some people are looking forward, but when he talks, they just don't care about him talking about the first 3 quarters because it ain't the CYO, man. It's professional basketball. You can't. I think that he's doing it right with his team. I do. I just don't think I don't think you could say that publicly.
Well, so when he says that he wishes they would have got to the rim, I mean, part of that is your guards were gassed. I don't know how he couldn't read that body language. Like, I've been watching basketball my whole life. I can see when guys start to feel that way. And then the day before, he goes, when things get down, they start bowing their head a little bit.
It's
and I'm
just
like,
too
no,
much of an excuse for this fan base.
Whatever.
You can't just sit there and say they're tired.
Oh, no, I think you totally can. I think that was obvious. And when that's apparent, that's why, as a coach, you use your timeout.
But I think
You're supposed to read that stuff.
And that's on him. I think we all understand that they're tired, but I just don't think that that's going to be acceptable to the fans. Oh, what happened back in 2026? Well, they were just tired. Hey, that sounds ridiculous by a regular fan, does it not?
I don't know how.
Nuts.
I don't know how. It's like when
everybody's tired.
When the air conditioning went out in San Antonio. This stuff happens, and LeBron looked like he needed to go to the hospital. There are times Matthew Dellavedova
and Charles Barkley famously called him a baby,
and Matthew Dellavedova when he busted his ass trying to defend Steph Curry,
and he
literally had to go to the hospital.
And
there are ways to read what's going on the floor. And Donovan Mitchell, for 3 quarters, was whizzing past guys at 200 miles an hour. And in the fourth quarter, he was passing the ball to James Harden. Why was that?
You just gave everything.
He was gassed.
You just gave me everything. Did Matthew Dellavedova and the Cavs win that game? Did they win that game? So that's a story that people get to tell lovingly for the rest of his career and really for the rest of their lives as fans. It just sounds like some great big excuse.
Yeah, but again,
the memes of LeBron with the cramps and the heat and all that other crap, he was made fun of into oblivion.
Yes, but if you're Kenny Atkinson and you're seeing the stuff that I am talking about and you're not calling timeout and you're just like, I'm not going to use this as an excuse. Okay, well, you lost the game. You did nothing to end the bleeding. Like you had some tools at your disposal. You refused to use them. And now you're kind of doubling down on it.
You and I are fighting over this, which is weird because it's a head coach who seems to make a plenty of excuses every time he's out there. 216-474-0092. I want to ask Tim Leggler that coming up at 9:01. Mary Kay at 8:20. And we got to be more reasonable when we're talking about Travis Bazzana because I want to call some people out. I can't call some people out. I might call some people out. It's coming up. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima. Remember, every Cavs conversation brought to you by the fine folks at Surfside Hard Iced Tea. They ask you to please enjoy that hard iced tea responsibly.
Extend Technologies, XT.
around the globe that we never hear of.
I really don't give a I mean, it had nothing to do with me. I mean, they moved the meeting. I didn't miss it. I was just trying to get a sweet haircut.
How it is when you win in Cleveland, man. They love you. When you lose, whew, it's the way it should be.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. How he couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
That sounds really good, but I'm not 6'5", and I don't have the athletic ability to play in the NBA.
Now, the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
It's 5 straight wins for the Guardians, beating the Tigers 3-2 in 10 innings. Tanner Bibee was awesome, allowing run on 4 hits over 8 innings of work. As the Guardians continue not to score for him, but they did get the job done. Angel Martinez tripled to start the 10th to bring home a run, and Brian Rocchio doubled home what would end up being the game-winning run. Cade Smith, his 16th save of the season. I was going to say the Guardians are part of the MLB elite right now, and then it's just they're part of the American League elite. Like, this is a team that can go far in the American League as weak as it is, with the West being horrendous, and nobody but the Yankees or the Rays looking even remotely competent right now.
Tell us something we didn't already know, young John. Look, we watched this team come back from 15.5 back. Now, were they World Series contenders last year? I don't think we ever really used that term other than it's baseball. Anything can happen once you get in the playoffs. This team right now, don't you kind of feel like this, if everybody stays healthy and these young guys, if the moment's not too big for them by the end of the year? Because the stage does change. Like, we have to admit, like, if you're playing games in Yankee Stadium, like, the stage does change a lot. But what I'm watching
they were
right now,
contenders last year, and that's true, and partly because they exerted so much getting back in and actually winning the division. But 2 years ago, they absolutely were World Series contenders.
Yes.
And they have upgraded the offense by bringing up the young guys, right? They didn't go out and get a bat. They just developed them.
Couple of things about those young guys on that offense. Thank you for leading me there. One is I do think, I wrote this on Twitter last night, the national media, all of us in the media, I think we need to be a little bit more responsible when it comes to some of these young guys. Guys are getting called up a little sooner. And I'm not going to name names. I will say it was from CBS Sports, and this was last year, where somebody flirted with the idea of Travis Bazzana being a bust. Now, obviously, it's still early, but he was 1 for 2 last night as a pinch hitter, leads the team in batting average, which I know John doesn't give a bleep about batting average, but some of us old heads still do, and Travis Bazzana is great. You have Chase DeLauder, who's been great, and you got 2 young guys here. Now, I'm not going to say this year that's not how the Guardians do it, all right? But you got 2 young guys here that I think are going to be ready for David Blitzer to pay him when David Blitzer takes over as the controlling owner of this baseball team.
Yeah, it's so funny. We were having these conversations, very quickly with DeLauder, and then he had, the slump. But looking at these guys now, I know we ride the wave of emotions, but it's like, all right, send them their big contracts now. Like, it's at the same time, got lucky that they reportedly had offered Quan a contract, and he turned it down. Tristan McKenzie, I know, pitcher, but they offered him a contract, and he turned it down. So sometimes luck can be on your side when it comes to this stuff.
But what did Jose Ramirez do? Sometimes do the Guardians know better than their own players that if they offer you a contract, maybe you just take that contract. Carlos Santana got offered an early contract and took it. And look, he kicked ass for a long time, Carlos Santana did. Yeah.
Just retired, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead, John. Sorry, buddy.
The Oklahoma City Thunder, they evened this series with a 122-113 win in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Guys, the Thunder are 11 deep. Which of their non-starters would help the Cavs most here against the Knicks?
We had said this during the season that I thought their backups would be like the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. That's how talented they are because they only take and develop, guys that can not only shoot, but can defend, some playmaking in there as well. I mean, first of all, Alex Caruso is legitimately playing like a top 25 player in the NBA. And if you would have told me that 3 years ago, I would have said that is bonkers. That guy is awesome. And he comes off the bench for them.
I need to ask you guys a question. Did I do my job last night where I basically had the choice. Now, with Extend Technology, you can watch 18 things at once. You can actually watch 12 things at once. I only watched the Guardians game last night. I did not watch Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Did I do my job last night?
Well, I think Wemby has reached that must-watch. If you're a hoops guy and you're in the playoffs and Wemby is out there.
But I'm a sports guy. It's a part of my job. I mean, one's the Western Conference Finals. It's one of the 4 teams left, and this is still May 20th last night.
It's later. So, that kind of – this game started at like 8:40. 8:45.
I was up until After the Guardians
the
game.
stuff, Wemby is literally in the category of doing something in every game I've never seen before. The way that he grabs his own misses and then comes around for a reversal dunk, he did it like 3 times last night. It's insane.
I didn't see any of it. I was watching Gardos. Maybe I'm a failure.
Aaron Rodgers announced his retirement yesterday. You know what he's also doing? He's at OTAs. He's with his head coach. Does that bother you?
Wait, he's met his head coach?
Yeah.
Why would it bother me that he's at OTAs? Oh, because you're trying to do because Keith loaded you up and wanted you to do it so you can get in my craw and get me angry. That's what you did. I know what you did.
Keith didn't do anything.
Okay, sure.
This is your
Check
own.
my phone.
Yeah. Okay, puppet. Got lamb chop over here. Keith's working him like a puppet.
Oh, I don't think it was Keith that was working him like a puppet, but I do think there was puppetry going on.
wielding the powers. Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is like the most bizarre. We've talked about his style of leadership and how poor it's been, over the years, and how he's wanted nothing to do with being with his football team until the last second. And he was there yesterday. And it's a big deal. It's a big story. You can tell because this is something that not only the locals are talking about in Pittsburgh, but nationally, the most aloof player in all of sports maybe is there with his head coach, who he had quite publicly, it seemed like they didn't get along at all.
Miles?
No.
If Miles played quarterback, it would be a big deal. He doesn't play quarterback. He sacks quarterbacks. He's the anti-quarterback.
And campaigned for another head coach.
Not a big
Didn't get him.
It's not a big deal.
You think he's talking to Jim Schwartz right now?
I don't know, Anthony.
At this very moment?
I give up.
You think they're together? Now, that would be crazy.
Probably hanging out.
I can't give up. I can't. Do you think they have any of the same interest? Does Jim Schwartz like piano? Miles knows how to play piano.
I mean, wait a second. He's a well-educated man, went to Georgetown. I bet they could talk turkey on
Jim
a lot
Schwartz?
of things. Yeah.
What does his education have to do with his interests?
I think that you asked if he's like a well-rounded person. And
you can be a well-rounded person and also be like, I'm not interested in piano. Right?
Sure, you can.
Okay. Just making
But
sure.
it would not surprise me in the least if Jim Schwartz can play the piano.
He ain't trapping me at all. Well, let's find out if he's got plenty of time. He ain't coaching this year. Let's find out if Jim Schwartz can play the piano. Is that it?
That's it for about last night?
Outstanding, puppet. Well done over there. What?
Puppet?
Go on, Elmo. Go on. Give us what else Keith told you to yell at me. Sure. Mary Kay Cabot at 8:20 this morning.
You might want to look in a different puppetry direction.
Are you the puppeteer?
Oh, no.
The marionette.
But Geppetto does wear green.
Come. You texted him? I swear
didn't do
to God.
anything.
The slippery
get off
wizard.
of me. Let's go Cavs.
Yeah, 8:01. We got Mary Kay at 8:22, but we do have game 2 tonight. 8:01. Did Kenny take a shot at a much-loved former Cavalier yesterday? Boy, he's just making everybody madder and madder the more he talks, isn't he? Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, and Kenny making you mad at 8:01 on The Fan.
92. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
One thing about James, I'll just defend him. He's a good isolation defender, always has been. He's super smart. I said it last night, he's got great hands. I was kind of a little more upset with our backline defense. Okay, he had two or three really tough shots on him, but then I think the baseline drive where our low guy didn't come over and get a contest, right? This is team defense. I know everybody's putting it on James, but a lot of it's on the team.
Kenny Atkinson, as your Cleveland Cavaliers get ready for Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight.
2 truths and a lie in there.
Okay, go right on ahead.
Well, the Harden isolation defender thing, anybody who's watched him his whole career, there are guys he matches up very well against. We saw that against Detroit, and we saw that against Toronto, right? He against wings, he's more than capable, and actually, as he got older in life, more experience, he actually was able to kind of keep power forwards out of there just because of his girth and his build and all that. He's never been a good isolation defender against small guards. He's just never. Not Brunson's not the quickest in the world, but Brunson is so adept with all of the tricks, the mechanics, the veteran stuff that he pulls. In a lot of ways, it's the stuff that Harden was doing when he was that age too, that was, very, very skillful and creative. And Brunson's one of the best in the league at it. I mean, just 2 years ago, he was 5th in MVP voting. He's still playing at a very, very high level. And so you can't say, well, James has been a great, very, very good isolation defender. I'm going to let him get cooked 9 straight possessions. Like, that sounds ridiculous. Now, the back line stuff, I was asking around about where was Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I mean, you have to make tough decisions, right? You leave your guy or whatever. But there were times when they had Karl-Anthony Towns close to the paint. Like, you can kind of come off him because they don't trust Karl-Anthony Towns right now, and he doesn't want to throw a bounce pass to him. He doesn't really want to do that. And earlier in the game, Mobley and Allen were doing a great job of help defense. Probably needed some help defense. That's part of the Harden experience. Like, when you trade for him, you say, well, we can cover up some of his weaknesses because of the back line. Well, where was the back line? So I do think he's telling the truth there.
Don't we have another clip from Kenny, though, you wanted to get to as well?
Yeah, I thought this was interesting because
this is fun.
Obviously, when you give up a record-setting, 21 points on isolations in one quarter. Like, it was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a player victimized like that to that extent. And I knew Harden would be the big story. Maybe later in the day it became more Atkinson, but in the interim, the people that want to hate on Harden, who hate his guts, hate the way he plays, and the Cavs fans that didn't want anything to do with him in the trade because of the Game 6 and Game 7 stuff, it was going to be their right to feast on it, and rightfully so. It was bad, and he didn't give you anything offensively in the fourth either. So to hear Atkinson say something that I also said yesterday on the air, I don't know if it made me feel better, but I agree with him.
What is the conversation with James? What is the challenge to James?
I kind of like it. Again, I said that without you, we're knocked out in the first round. My personal opinion. So let's just stop there. We're in a great position. You've played great, and sometimes micro experiences get exaggerated.
I mean, you know who he's essentially throwing shade at there, because I've been accused of it many times.
He's not throwing shade at anybody. Who's he throwing shade at?
The point guard they traded away.
I'm just playing stupid.
Now you're the marionette. Essentially, he's saying that if Darius Garland is a starting point guard of this team, we are eliminated in the first round, and I agree with him. I've said that.
Without you, we're knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
Truth's the truth.
That's
why you traded him.
I'm kind of stunned to hear him say that.
Why? Isn't it the truth?
I just didn't think he would be saying anything like it.
I've been surprised at how big of a villain. Like, I just thought James Harden, when he went to L.A. and he's in his late 30s, it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. It really was. And I don't take them seriously over in Los Angeles. The Clippers. I don't take the Clippers seriously. And I just figured that was it. And then we get him, and I just did not realize this was a blind spot for me, how many people really dislike James Harden. And that fans, even though he's a Cavalier, you can tell there's definitely some people who are arm's length or waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because, hey, the history's blamed right on him from everywhere else he's been and all the stories that we've told. we have to obviously admit, though, here that Darius Garland's a good kid. Ain't nothing wrong with Darius Garland. Kenny Atkinson's just telling us the truth. Now, it might sound like he's taking a shot at somebody. I know that Kenny's been sticking his foot in his mouth over the last 48 hours here, but you'd say it. I'd say it. We're not the head coach of the Cavs, but do we not all believe it's true? We all should believe it's true because it's the truth. They probably would have been knocked out against Toronto had Darius Garland still been the one on this team and not James Harden. We'd probably would have been, if we got past Toronto, definitely would have lost to Detroit had it have been Darius Garland instead of James Harden.
The flip side of this, and what we're going to get is, well, who cares if James Harden plays terrible in this series, his age shows, not a good matchup, if all that stuff is true, and they just simply lose in 4 or 5 games.
We would have lost in the first round.
Well, they'll say, why did you get 9 years older? And now what, you're going to commit another 2 years to him? See, that is something that I do wonder if he looks really bad in this series, what the Cavs will do over the next 2 years with the Harden contract, or if they just unload him.
I'm glad you brought this up because there's people who I do love that who've brought this up to me, and I got to get it through their head. So I'm going to use you to get it through their head. We may not have a chance with James Harden this year to win a championship. Let's be honest. We might not have a chance over the next 2 years to win a championship with James Harden. The word is may. We may not. We would not with Darius. Do we understand the difference between that? Do we understand the moves that are made between will not, would not, and may not? Do we understand that? We need to understand the 3 words that are there. 2 of them mean the same thing. 1 of them means that you are making crazy moves. Kenny's gone. Kobe may be gone. Donovan would want out. Evan may be gone. Do we get that? Do we understand how much better James Harden played like garbage down the stretch against New York on Monday or on Tuesday? Without a doubt. How good has Jarrett Allen been this year? Even through a knee injury. How good has Jarrett Allen been? Answer the question.
We have seen a different Jarrett Allen.
How much better does Jarrett Allen look with James Harden? You can hate James Harden all you want. Strip clubs, wings, weight, anything you want to say. You can't deny the truth. I'm sure by the end of all this, I'll hate James Harden too. It never ends well. Jarrett Allen's a better basketball player with the help of James Harden. Evan Mobley, while we have struggled at times with Evan is a better basketball player with James Harden. How can people not see that?
Well, and the never ends well thing, I pointed this out at the time. It doesn't end well for 97% of the superstars in this league.
That's true.
There's only a few guys. Like, if we go through it until these guys actually win championships, how many guys right now can put a team on their back and be the number 1 guy on a championship team? And now people would say, well, you got to take Giannis off it. He can barely make the playoffs.
It ended bad.
Right now. Jokic, they got bounced in the first round. They got bounced in the second round last year.
But let me use an example. Let me use a different example. It ended horrifically with James Harden throwing soup on people. Actually, it probably ended worse with the guy who threw soup on. It ended really bad for James Harden here. Throwing soup on people. Did I say James Harden? Yeah. It ended really bad for J.R. Smith throwing soup on Damon Jones, allegedly. We still say great things about J.R. Smith.
Yeah, we do.
So it ended bad, but we still have great memories. I could see James Harden being out of here and me still cussing out James Harden 5 years from now. Mark the words. But you know what you're seeing. He's better than Darius. If Darius wasn't robbed by the injury, maybe my comments would be different. Probably would be. They might have not traded him. But when the guy openly admits he's playing with 9 toes and he's underweight and slight anyway, guys, your hands are tied. So you can cuss out James Harden or be the arm's length with James Harden all you want. But the proof is right here. You're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Kenny is right. And we got 2 years older or 10 years older, and we might only have maybe 2 years left if we actually do it right. But, man, we didn't have a future with Darius. Can't we see that?
And
nice player.
And people are going to forget this.
What's going to happen?
But they kind of had to make a decision on Darius and his future. And if you listen to Rich Paul, like, Darius was gone this offseason anyway. And his trade value, unfortunately, was plummeting by the day. And that was never going to be able to net you the wing, unfortunately, that I wanted. You know, there were guys I wanted over James Harden.
I know.
But when it finally got cemented, I'm like, all right, well, this is the best they can get.
216-474-0092. We're going to get back to this coming up in a bit. Tim Leggler going to join us at 9:01 ESPN. He's on the broadcast. How do the Cavs bounce back in this series tonight? Is James Harden the one who has the most pressure, or is it just the head coach of your Cavaliers, Kenny Atkinson? And Are we ready to call the QB race, or have we only just begun? In the words of Chubbs Peterson. Mary Kay Cabot going to join us in 5 to answer that question on The Fan. K&K Heating and Cooling. Best part about them.
again in Toronto. Get all the latest Browns content filtered right to your phone during this offseason by following the Browns playlist and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Tim Leggler, 9:01. We're getting ready for Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Tim Leggler is going to tell us how did the Cavs bounce back in the series. Does James Harden have the most pressure? But Mary Kay Cabot joins us right now on the Wise Heart Right, We Make It Right. Call Kyle Wright hotline because OTAs are here, and it seems, Mary Kay, that there are plenty of people in the national media that want to dust their hands off and say that's the quarterback competition. Deshaun Watson, week 1. How's it looking right now?
Well, it looked to me yesterday like Deshaun did get more of the reps with the starters in those 2 spotting periods. So if you just added up the reps where he was actually working with the ones, Deshaun got more of those. But then when it came to an important period later in the practice, Shedeur got a really nice choice drill where he was able to be the first man up in an 11-on-11 full speed period. So I thought that was a good sign for Shedeur in the competition. It wasn't like clearly we looked out there and it was like, oh no, Deshaun's getting everything. It wasn't that. Shedeur came back and was able to do that 11-on-11. So they're still running a competition. Shedeur still has an opportunity to come from behind and try to take this thing over. But I would say that just from the sheer optics of it, it looks right now like Deshaun is ahead.
So if Deshaun ends up winning the job, we're not going to be freaking out, are we? Like, there's not going to be any conversations like some people have called in about he should demand a trade. I'm like, no. Let's not go nuts. But, I mean, things did get nuts last year, so we're not going to go nuts, are we?
Well, I think the thing to remember here is that Deshaun is coming off of 2 Achilles surgeries and then also a shoulder surgery, and he's 30 years old. So just because he starts the season doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to finish the season. And so everyone has to be ready. And as we've seen in the past few years, almost every quarterback on the roster, and sometimes and then some, have started games for this football team. So I would imagine that even if Deshaun starts the season, that Shedeur Sanders is going to get some opportunities.
All right, Mary Kay, Coach, in the manner of which he speaks, people absolutely love some of the stuff he's saying. And yesterday, he saw some interceptions in 7-on-7 without a pass rush, and he was appalled. Overall, how were the quarterbacks, do you think, yesterday?
Well, it looks pretty good so far considering that they are installing a whole new offense, learning all new terminology. It looks pretty efficient to me. I mean, that Denzel Boston catch, that was a great, great play. Again, that was in 7-on-7s, but that's what you want to see, of course, in 7-on-7s. You don't want to see interceptions. And you're right, Todd Monkin says things like that. This was embarrassing. He hates bad football. That's just his personality, and people probably aren't used to it yet because Kevin Stefanski was very buttoned down, as we all know, and we didn't hear him yelling and screaming, and he never said anything was embarrassing. He was very, very even keel. So, this is different. It's a change of pace, but I think this is what he's going to need to do to take the bull by the horns and get this offense ready to play.
Mary Kay Cabot joining us on the show. I'm not going to ask her about Myles Garrett. That's up to you. So I will find other things to discuss with her, Lima, because I know you want to do it, and I'm not going to be the one that's blamed on it. So do you want to ask the next question, or should I? Because I'll find plenty of things to ask.
I'm curious because obviously a big deal was made of Aaron Rodgers actually showing up to stuff in Pittsburgh, and that made national headlines. And then yesterday, Todd Monkin once again confirmed he has not met up with Myles Garrett since he was named the head coach. Do you read anything into that?
No, I don't. We've asked Todd about this so many different times, and he has said so many times that it's the off season. This is voluntary. Myles knows how to get ready. At one point, he even said, you guys are making a big deal out of this. It's not a big deal. And then the other thing to remember here about Myles Garrett, there are certain generational players that they have a different set of rules, and that's just how it's always going to be. Lawrence Taylor was that player, and Myles Garrett is in that category. He's in that stratosphere where, yes, there is a little bit of a different set of rules. Now, right now, he's playing by the rules. These are voluntary workouts. So he is playing by the rules. But even in times when maybe he strays outside of those lines a tiny bit, that's just what you get when you're a two-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year and arguably the best defensive player in the NFL right now.
Well, I keep getting it thrown in my face about Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, well, one plays quarterback, the other one plays defensive end. I mean, can I simplify it about that, or am I digging my head in the sand? And if you think I'm burying my head in the sand on this, Mary Kay, please let me have it.
Well, no, I do think that a quarterback, especially when you have a new head coach, really needs to be there for OTAs. I mean, if you look out there at what's going on right now here with Todd Monkin and the offense, they are installing a brand new offense and a new terminology. And if you're not here for part of that right now, I think you're really going to be behind the eight ball. And the same thing is happening, although we know that Aaron Rodgers has worked with Mike McCarthy extensively, but he's there. I don't know if Lamar was there this week and they have a new head coach. I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if you're the quarterback or anybody else on offense of a football team that has a new head coach and a new scheme and a new system, I really think it's imperative that you're there, especially for the quarterback. So I do think there's a different set of standards.
Well, I would agree, Mary Kay.
I have the story, by the way. Lamar Jackson not there because apparently communicated personal matters.
Ooh.
So they're supposedly on the same page there.
All right. Well, then, Mary Kay, if they're on the same page, that's fine. But let me go with this. See, I agree with you because one's a quarterback, but I'm being told the puppet master is trying to get into John, and John's trying to challenge me, which ain't gonna be no challenge. About it's still important because one, it's a new head coach, and I'm going. It doesn't matter to me. It does not matter. Aaron Rodgers is a mercurial figure, kind of in the same way that Myles Garrett is, but Myles Garrett plays defensive end, the other one plays quarterback. If Myles Garrett was quarterback of the Browns and decided to go to Egypt when training camp started, like Aaron Rodgers did a couple years ago, I'd be critical of Myles Garrett. But I don't have to be. Now, do I? No. I'm looking at Lima when I'm yelling that. I'm sorry, Mary Kay. You have to play referee so many times about it. Let me ask you about what if Joel Bitonio says he wants to come back and play football? What do we do on the offensive line? Because we haven't mentioned Joel Bitonio in months.
Wait, he didn't retire?
Not that I know of. Now, I was on vacation a few weeks ago, so maybe that happened and I didn't know. Mary Kay, what do we know? Can you answer that question? And then what do we know about Joel's future?
Well, we really don't know anything definitive yet. It seems to me the longer it goes, the less likely it is that he's coming back here to play. But Andrew Berry keeps on saying that if he wants to do so, then there is a place for him. And just like as the case is with Myles Garrett, Joel doesn't need these practices, and he can show up pretty much whenever he would want to and go out and play some good football. So we'll see how that goes. I was told that, it's just a little ways away yet what's happening with Joel.
Yeah, because I just looked it up. Joe Thomas retired on March 19th of 2018. So we're into May. Joel can make his decision really whenever he wants. I'm just kind of...
Or is there any chance
I think I'm just kind of operating that he's going to retire.
Is this crazy to think? I know you have to have a mindset sometimes, especially as a football player. But is there any chance Bitonio is just going to sit and wait for maybe a significant injury on a competitor and wait for the phone call and have his agent put that out there?
Didn't Jason Peters kind of do something like that? I'm not
There
necessarily
have been guys
sure.
that do it.
But on the offensive line?
I know. It's a little different, but if there is a big-time injury on a contender...
Sure, it's happened a couple times. I just can't... I'm trying to remember if Jason Peters did it. I keep mentioning that name. I'm probably wrong. Go ahead, Mary Kay.
I suppose there is a world in which something like that can happen, and you have to remember that Joel Bitonio played at a very high level last year, and a lot of it will depend on how his body feels right now. But I suppose there is a world in which if someone picked up the phone and wanted him to come play for them, that he might possibly consider that. I don't know if that's where his mind is at right now, but he still has plenty left in the tank.
All right, Quinshon Judkins, there was talk about just how good he looked. Is he back to normal? Does that mean we're just going to get a fresh start and, not have to worry about any of the limitations with the injury this year?
Well, I wouldn't say he's 100% back to normal. He wasn't even working in team drills when we were out there for voluntary mini camp in April. So he's ramping up, but he did look good and explosive yesterday. And he was in 11 on 11s. I was very surprised about that. I thought that they would ramp him up a little bit more slowly during these OTAs and then maybe work him into some team during mini camp. But no, he's in 11 on 11s now. He looks very, very good. And I think fans should be really excited and encouraged by that because they are going to need him to have a big year. This is an offense, of course, that is new and young. They're going to need that running game. They're going to need their power running game. And he just looks to me to be even further ahead than I thought he would be.
All right, no, we learned over the last week, Deion Sanders made it abundantly clear that he thought the prior regime didn't necessarily respect his words of wisdom. Is that going to change this time around with Todd Monkin?
Well, we forgot to ask him that yesterday. We got back to the media room, and sometimes you kick yourself and you're like, oh, we forgot to ask a certain question, and that was one of them. I did kind of have it on my list of things to ask, and I just didn't get it in. But yeah, it will be interesting to see if Todd Monkin is open to that kind of a conversation. I don't know why he wouldn't be. I'm sure he will be. It's Deion. You're not going to just have him show up in town and decide that you're not going to be open to that. So I'm guessing that those two guys will talk, and I'm sure it will be helpful.
I think, shouldn't he be able to talk to him, considering he is a current college football coach, Tone?
Yeah, I didn't see that big of a deal with it. Now the question is, what is Deion offering up? Like, what is it? What is his ultimate goal? Is it just for two football guys, two coaches to just talk it up? Is it just about doing everything he can to get his son in as the starting quarterback? Like, what is the design? What is he trying to get out of those conversations? And I think probably only Deion would know what that is, what his intentions are.
Well, he knows the right buttons to push with Shedeur. He knows how to motivate him. He knows how to get him going. He knows, just what he needs inside the classroom and on the field and in the game. And I think he wants to share those little shortcuts and tips of things that he knows will work for him. So if I were Todd Monkin, I would certainly be open to that kind of a conversation because if it can help you unlock some of the keys to better quarterback play, then why not go for that?
Mary Kay, I am actually hoping. I saw the picture of the judge in Texas with the Red Raider mascot, and I was encouraged by that because I'm hoping Brendan Sorsby wins this case and is able to go back to college. I don't want us having any crazy ideas here. If he is somehow barred from playing football again by a guy who is a Red Raider fan, because we saw the pictures, if he had to go to the supplemental draft, how interested would the Browns be? I know that you've given your opinion of him, but how interested do you think the Browns would be?
It's tough to say because I think it comes down to the gambling addiction and how you think he might be able to handle that moving forward. I think that is the number one factor here. From a football standpoint, if you have a chance to get your hands on a good first-round quarterback for whatever draft pick you would bid, and you have that opportunity, then just from a pure football standpoint, I would take that. But from a gambling addiction standpoint, I think that he's probably got a lot of work to do ahead of him so far, and he's still in rehab right now. So I think that's a risk. But from a football standpoint, I think it would be tempting.
Have they ever kind of communicated to you guys? Has the question ever been asked of, like, Andrew? I don't know when his next media availability would be, but, like, we're going into a new era here. I mean, sports gambling is basically all across the country in so many ways and online. And if it's not Brendan Sorsby, there's going to be other guys, I'm sure. How do they navigate those waters when it comes to that? I mean, we've talked about substance abuse and other things, other crimes, but this is kind of – we don't have a lot of experience with athletes openly being addicted to gambling like that.
No, it's kind of a newer phenomenon, of course. And I don't know how they will view it. I think it's a very, very difficult topic because it's tough to overcome a gambling addiction. I used to go on the radio a lot with Art Schleister, and he was a great human being. I really enjoyed talking to him, and he just struggled with that his whole entire life. So it's a tough call. But remember, Andrew Berry is a man of second chances. He believes that players who have made mistakes in their past, they deserve him to reach that hand out and pull them in and give them a second chance. So I wouldn't be surprised if they would at least consider putting a bid in on him, but I don't know that for sure.
Mary Kay Cabot, you got anything?
Yeah,
we gotta
real
go.
quick.
We got to go.
Are you putting up the Cavs' 22-point collapse in the Eastern Conference Finals Game 1 in the same stratosphere as the drive, as the fumble? I saw people doing that, Mary Kay.
We'll see. It depends on if they can come back and win the series. If they win the series, then it can't go into those buckets.
All right, Mary Kay, thank you very much for the time. All the very best to you and yours, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Mary Kay Cabot on the Wise Heart Right, We Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. They're both football coaches. They should talk to each other. And 9 o'clock, Tim Leggler should join us on the show as he wants to know. I want to know from him whether or not the Cavs are going to be able to bounce back in this series tonight and whether or not James Harden is the crux of whether or not the Cavs are going to be able to bounce back in this series tonight. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan.
You are genius. See website for details.
Talk sports deep into the Cleveland night. Overtime with Jake Volnick. Weeknights at 7. Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
They're still running a competition. Shedeur still has an opportunity to come from behind and try to take this thing over. But I would say, just from the sheer optics of it, it looks right now like Deshaun is ahead.
That's Mary Kay Cabot about the quarterback race. Tim Leggler will talk Cavs with us. ESPN, he's on the call for ESPN. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It was Mary Kay about Deshaun. I remember I got the text the day he got hired. It was like, he likes Watson. Okay. It wasn't an agent either, so don't even get me there. I know what I've said before. If he likes Watson, he likes Watson. I'm ready to accept it. I just hope they win. I hope they win. I don't know if they will, but frankly, I don't know if they will with anybody else. I have optimism for it. I'm optimistic because of the young talent that's on the team, the strength of schedule, this, that, and the other. There's another thing that's being said, though, about the other quarterback. Deion Sanders is his father, and a very famous father at that. The whole thing about him talking to Deion had said that he wanted to talk to Todd Monkin. Were people getting upset about that quote?
I saw a lot of people go to the entitled nepotism. This is the Sanders family doing everything they can to take over the team. Like, I did see that stuff. I thought a lot of it was so ridiculous.
John and Owen turned it around real quick. Here is Mary Kay's answer when I asked her the question. When you asked her the question, actually.
It will be interesting to see if Todd Monkin is open to that kind of a conversation. I don't know why he wouldn't be. I'm sure he will be. It's Deion. You're not going to just have him show up in town and decide that you're not going to be open to that. So I'm guessing that those two guys will talk, and I'm sure it will be helpful.
So my issue wasn't with that. My issue was with the people who got upset. And here I'm going to get accused of, again, here we go, Ken and Shedeur and all this other stuff. When we drafted Denzel Boston, who is not related to David Boston, and I keep wanting to say David Boston, and damn it, it's hard. When we drafted Denzel Boston, Jed Fish was on Baskin and Phelps. Yeah. And Jed Fish was open about talking to the Browns and talking to Todd Monkin, and I believe Andrew Berry, and he had a great interview with the guys. And I reminded myself of that because there were people who, oh, my God, of course Deion wants to talk to Todd Monkin. Now, he couldn't get his hooks into Kevin, so now he's got to get his hooks into Todd. I go, whoa, hold on. Jed Fish can talk to an NFL head coach. Jed Fish is the head coach of the Washington Huskies. Deion Sanders is still the head coach, no matter what you guys think. He's still the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. That is a P4 head coach. Why the hell can't he talk to an NFL head coach?
Well, and he talks clearly when you're a head coach that has talent that gets drafted in the NFL. And of course, we know that about his son, the Heisman Trophy winner, plenty of other guys, in Boulder. Obviously, the coaches they come in and talk to those coaches all the time. The scouts, obviously, the general managers. Like, that happens, I do MAC games, Mid-American Conference games, and they hear from the coaches and the GMs all the time during the season. So there's dialogue all the time.
One of the sell points, and you knew I was against the idea, one of the sell points on Ty Simpson was his dad's a college football coach or has been a college football coach. So Ty Simpson's dad gets to talk. Yeah. Deion doesn't get to talk?
That's a good point.
Deion doesn't get to talk? Hold on. Who does everybody think that's going to go number one next year? Arch Manning, yeah. So granddad don't talk to nobody? Oh, nobody's going to talk to grandpa or his uncles?
You can bet that will be just that will be assumed.
Hey, man.
That when that happens, that the Manning family will be in correspondence.
Let's think about this, because I've been a hypocrite before. Not on purpose. Not on purpose. That, to me, is purposeful hypocrisy.
Now, the question is, so we're on the same page on this.
Hell yeah,
we didn't think that was a big deal at all.
I'm very happy you and I are on the same page about that.
My question is, what would be the intention over time? Like, what you don't want, and this would be from anybody. Deion, this would be from, Dylan Gabriel's dad was a quarterback. Took Hawaii to their first bowl game ever. Mm-hmm. Like, had some big wins over BYU. Like, does he want to talk to Todd Monkin? And, like, where do you go with it down the road? Like, you're not texting the coach after every game. That would be a little much. Like, if you're a head coach, like, I got things to do. But if Deion's like, hey, my son's making some mistakes out there, here's some things he's hitting on, or you probably just expect him to talk to his son in general anyway.
We all get to a point where, maybe it doesn't work out and we have to move on from a QB. God knows we moved on from plenty of them. But a football coach, this is the same thing I was saying about Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson should not be the first guy to jump off of James Harden. The fans are always the first one to jump off a player. It's natural. You don't have the relationship. You don't have to try to motivate him. You don't have to try to put him in the best part that's there. You're not the one who's got to pay him. So now we're in big boy leagues here. Shedeur ain't going anywhere, at least not right now. So Todd Monken's a football coach. He's got to find out what he can get and get his players from A to as close to B as he possibly can. And then if he can't get him to where he wants him to be at point B, we got to move point B to make this thing work. And it's the same thing with Deshaun Watson as it is with Shedeur Sanders, as it is with Taylor Green, as it is with who's the Dylan Gabriel, who it is with anybody who he's coached. So this thing about, well, Deion just, no. You want to do the whole Brad McCoy thing? I'm here for it. I've listened to it. We were here. We were on the air during that whole thing.
Yeah, there's a fine line, right?
But there is a fine line. And if Deion, we have found out after the year or something that Deion was calling every single day and texting and all this stuff, I'll change that conversation. But the head coach of a major college football program is going to be asked when guys are taken and they could end up being the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns or for the Jacksonville Jaguars, whoever the hell it may be. That is a normal, standard thing.
Now, look, do I expect Deion to weigh in after every game with Monkin and if things are going south, him to correct things? No, but Deion's got enough going on.
I don't want
Boulder.
him.
He's got a 3-win football team he's trying to turn around.
Exactly. He is a busy head coach. He deserves the respect as a head coach. I understand that this last year was terrible for him. Beat our buddy, I hate to say it. This last year was terrible for him. But again, I keep going back to the quarterback in that people bring up his win-loss record. You took over one of the worst programs in college football, major college football history. Now, if Deion were texting him after Deshaun starts in week 2,
right,
I got a problem.
Then it'd be a problem.
Then I got a problem.
But
if you're stumping for your guy like that, you're stumping for it, then I think I got a problem. But if we're talking about a major college football coach where Archie Manning isn't even a major college football coach, let's not sit there and act like we're not talking to Archie Manning, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, David Cutcliffe. When it comes to Ty Simpson, don't tell me when you told me that his dad was a selling point on why to take him in the first freaking round. Oh, but Deion can't talk?
But no. I don't think Deion.
That's ridiculous.
I don't think Deion would do that just because his kid wasn't starting. I don't think he would do that because he's the head coach. He wouldn't want the parents, right? Well, the high school parents / coaches of the kids that aren't starting in Boulder. He wouldn't want to deal with that either. He's been a coach. He understands how this stuff works.
Does James Harden have the most pressure of any Cavalier in this series, especially going into Game 2?
Boy, I didn't think so going into the series. You raise a very, very interesting question.
Should we ask it to Tim Leggler, or is this all on Kenny Atkinson? Well, Tim Leggler, ESPN. He's going to answer that question coming up at 9:01 on The Fan.
Anthony Lima.
just lean on the positive. We had 3 quarters of really good basketball. Some of the best basketball we've honestly played in the playoffs, especially offensively and defensively. Really good. And in the fourth quarter, I'd say looking back on it, the fourth quarter, but what I'm probably more disappointed about it was our offense. Shot quality wasn't great. We weren't getting to the rim. I think we took 9 threes. Thought we could have gotten to the rim more and put more pressure on them at the rim.
Oh, Kenny, shut up. No, I'm kidding. It's time to turn the page of game 2, Tom. It's time to turn the page of game 2.
We're hoping we can turn the page to game 2.
Get a guy who wants to turn the page of game 2. He'll be on the call. Tim Leggler, ESPN basketball, NBA basketball analyst. He's on the Wise Heart Right. We make it right. Call Kyle Right hotline. Tim, good morning to you.
Good morning. How you guys doing today?
We're doing well.
Don't lie to him. We're not doing well. We got into a fist fight yesterday in the opening segment.
That was yesterday. It almost was a fist fight. It wasn't a fist fight, and we licked our wounds today. So we're fine now. We're getting ready for game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And, Tim, it was a bizarre set of circumstances, or well, at least a bizarre happening that went down on Tuesday night. How do you bounce back if you're the Cavs? Not only do you lose game 1, but you lose it in an historic fashion where you basically had the thing wrapped up.
I think all you can do is focus on the one thing that Kenny Atkinson said in that clip you just played, which is for 2.5 quarters, they really were humming. And it was on both ends, but I thought their offense was so good during that stretch. And so you've got to look at the game. Obviously, you said that, the unusual set of circumstances. I don't think any of us have ever seen anything like that. I'm sitting there calling the game. It's, 22-point lead, and there's just no way in hell you're going to convince anybody in that building that the Knicks are going to win that game. So obviously that's tough to come back from because you have to get a road win to win the series. I don't know, you're going to be in a better position than you were in game 1 to get that road win. So you leave there dejected after playing really well for a long stretch of that game, controlling the game, really dominating the Knicks for a large portion of that game. You don't leave with a win. That's tough. That's a very tough thing to deal with that night. The next day you wake up, you're really ticked off. You go watch the film. You get even madder at the circumstances and the situation. But you have no choice other than to look at the things you did against them and say, hey, look, we can replicate this. We know how to operate against them offensively. We just have to do it for a sustained stretch in the fourth quarter, and we got to figure out a way to get it done with the games tight late. But it's not as if they just came in there, got steamrolled, and didn't play well throughout the game. And I think that's got to be the focus. What else can you do to try to flush this from your memory?
Well, all eyes, obviously, Legs, after the game. Harden, and there's always some national stuff with that goes on. And then Kenny Atkinson, and rightfully so. So, you're sitting there courtside, and you guys did a masterful job of calling out way before that lead got cut to like 3 or 5. You're like, the Cavs need to adjust. This is not going to go their way. Brunson got hot. Harden, who I thought played really good defense on almost everybody for 3 quarters, it was pretty clear he had nothing left on either end. And no timeouts were called, and there really wasn't much of an adjustment until it got a little too late, and then they were scrambling. So what were your thoughts as now you've had time to listen to Kenny Atkinson, listen to the teams, and then, watch that tape again?
Yeah, and I rewatched the game this morning again just to kind of make sure I could have context over that sequence of events. And I think, look, here's the thing with Harden. Defensively, in certain contexts, he's fine. And usually that means against bigger guards when they're trying to get physical with him, back him down, guys that don't have blow-by speed, he's fine because he's strong. He can keep guys in place with his forearm. He's very good at raking down with his hands and stripping on guys when they try to get into the paint on him. When you put him in a one-on-one coverage against a guard that is so shifty and can change directions the number of times that Jalen Brunson can, now that's just a formula for disaster for the Cavs. And look, I understand you're up 22, and Brunson hits a couple of baskets. And so I think initially, reluctantly, you're not going to double because you're saying, okay, a 22-point lead, they're going to have threes to erase this. They're not going to make that many twos in that period of time to be able to erase this deficit. So let's just stay with single coverage. All right, he made 5 shots in a row. So now the lead basically has been cut in half. now there's enough time, and this building started to sense it. The Knicks started to sense it. Like, okay, we did the hardest part here. We took this from 22 down to about 10. That was all Brunson, all one-on-one, getting single coverage against the same defender, no adjustments. At that point, now you're in a tough spot because I was like, okay, we're going to start running this sort of half-hearted double team at him. I thought it was weak and soft and passive the way they were doubling him because they weren't all out blitzing him. That let the other three defenders know exactly what their rotations are, who has the first pass coming out of it. Instead, they were sort of half-heartedly running a defender toward him. That creates confusion for the other three defenders because they're not sure, is that guy stunting and he's going to get back to the first pass? Do I have the first pass? And as a result, they gave up a 3 to Shamet. They gave up a corner 3 to Bridges. And because I don't think they committed either way. And that was, to me, the biggest problem for them. You're going to have to figure out if they go back into that mode again, what exactly you're going to do. And certainly one thing you're going to do, you got to be more selective in how Harden ends up on Brunson because I thought they just indiscriminately handed him off to Brunson with any brush screen he got. There was at least 3 or 4 occasions. They did not need to switch it, but they'd already made up their mind, we're switching everything. Well, yeah, but not if the guy's 40 feet out getting a little brush screen. You don't need to switch that. Dean Wade can stay on him. First of all, Wade and Strus should have been on the floor earlier in the fourth quarter. You don't let him go that many possessions, and those guys are kind of sitting over there watching. There were just so many things they did defensively to contribute to their own demise. And they're going to watch it, and they're going to see it. And the adjustment will come tonight, and we're all going to kind of wait and see what that has to be.
Tim Leggler, obviously a terrific job, lead analyst right now on ESPN for the Eastern Conference Finals. So, part of it, Kenny Atkinson kind of admitted yesterday he was disappointed in the bigs, and I presume he's talking about Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Earlier in the game, they did such a great job funneling, guards down there. Knicks did not play well in crowded spaces. And so could that have been part of it, that they were saying, all right, we're okay with Brunson getting down to the painted area because we expect the bigs to come over because they had done such a great job doing it, and they just weren't able to do it that late?
Yeah, definitely. There's no question. It was different look when you go back and take a look at their defensive possessions prior to that stretch. It was different. Brunson was not able to get that last dribble that he was taking during that run in the fourth quarter. He wasn't getting that last dribble he needed to create the angle he needed off the glass. He banked in 3 shots during that stretch. And you can't get to the angle for the bank shot unless you are able to have enough space to take that final dribble to create that angle. And earlier in the game, he wasn't getting that additional dribble because he was being met higher up the lane. And in that stretch, he was not. And again, I think it was, and we'll talk to Kenny tonight before the game and just get a little bit clearer idea, I think, of what he was thinking. I just think it got to the point where they were too worried about over-helping. And then there's kickouts to corner threes or wing threes. And this was a night the Knicks didn't shoot the ball well from 3 at all until they had to. You had them bottled up pretty good from the 3-point line. And I just think they're doing a math equation. It's 22 points. It's 7.5 minutes. They're not doing this unless they hit some threes. And so we're going to initially give less help on Brunson, make him make some tough shots. He was able to. I think it surprised everybody that he was able to string together basically 5 shots in a row with the same coverage, because they were all different shots. One going left down the lane, one going right for a bank shot, one going left for a pull-up jumper. He went right for a little floater. Then he had the step-back 3. So it was all different shots. It wasn't a steady dose of anything like going the same direction. So I think they just wanted to stay home, don't overcommit to this, where there's an easy kick-out 3 and they can cut this deficit a lot quicker. That's the only explanation I can have for it. But by the time Brunson got to his 3rd, 4th basket, you have to now know that this is going to be what it's going to look like the rest of the way. We cannot allow James Harden to play him anymore on an island one-on-one because we're not scoring on the other end. And this lead is disappearing, and we're going to start to feel a lot of pressure here. And that's exactly what happened. They got so tight offensively over the last 3-4 minutes of that game.
I don't mean to ask you to tell tales out of school here. Tim Leggler joining us on the show. But after the game, Mike Breen had to think that Sam Merrill 3 was going in, right? Like he went to say, bah, and then he stopped himself.
I think we all thought it was going in. I mean, the ball had a weird spin on it. Like for Sam Merrill, like shooters like that ball comes off in those seams. are spinning directly right back at you. It's perfect rotation on the backspin. Like, the ball's not going to spin out like that. So he had just a tiny bit of sideways rotation. That's the only way you explain that ball not going in. I mean, it's halfway down. So we all were kind of, I think, expecting it. Once it got to the front of the rim, I thought that ball was going in as well. So what a break. The irony of all of that, guys, is you think about all the things we just described that went wrong for the Cavs. And there's a lot more than we even talked about. They had turnovers during that stretch. They missed how many free throws during that stretch? Any one of which, those things changed. You stalled the momentum of the Knicks, and you probably win the game. And then even after all that, all the things you did wrong defensively, the offense playing the way it did, Mitchell being so quiet during that stretch, it can all be erased if that ball goes in. Now, that doesn't mean, you wake up and you feel like, okay, we played a perfect game. There's major adjustments that are going to need to be made based on what happened in the fourth quarter, but you still would have been bailed out by that ball going in, and you would have ended up with the road win that you definitely felt like you deserved. But instead, it doesn't go in. You have to go to overtime. The Knicks then control overtime pretty easily. And, wow, what a different feeling both teams have now waking up yesterday and certainly waking up today going into Game 2.
Now we are getting nitty-gritty basketball breakdown from Tim Leggler. This is why he's on the call for the biggest game. So the other part of this is you mentioned, all right, they're scoring every single time down. Well, in the fourth quarter, I don't know what you thought courtside. To me, and I've seen this at times from Donovan, this is one of the – I don't know if it's a kryptonite to what has been a phenomenal career, and he has had some of the biggest, productive second half performances. I've seen it all, but he kind of does get gassed at times. And I thought he was superhuman defensively in this game. Some of the best defense I've ever seen him play. To me, it looked like Dwayne Wade, but I wonder if that contributed to him looking as gassed as he did. He only got 4 shots up in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and they went how many possessions in a row where he was basically either going up, for the most part, to the right side of the floor, to the wing, or to the corner, and just sort of camping out and waiting. And I said it on the air because I watched it back this morning. Sometimes you forget even some of the things you say in the moment. And I said on the air in the moment, I said, this has to be a Mitchell possession right here. Like, he's been too quiet. And as I was saying it, Strus got stripped. And so they didn't even get the ball over half court. But, like, James Harden, it was not a night in which James Harden was like cooking as a scorer. Like, he still is valuable on nights when he doesn't shoot well. Yes, he's had some issues in the playoffs. He's still valuable because of his ability to collapse the defense and break you down. And it puts pressure on you for the lob threat or one of the bigs for a pocket pass. Certainly they have shooters they can kick out three. So he's still valuable in that regard, but he wasn't scoring. And at that point, you needed a basket. The ball had to go in. So I'm saying, why is Mitchell not initiating these possessions? Now, after the game, you hear something like, hey, maybe he had hurt his ankle or somebody rolled up on his ankle, and but he stayed on the floor the entire time. So to me, it couldn't have been that big of a factor. He was out there. You got to go get the basketball. And he had a very efficient night, like one of the few guys, up and down the both stat sheets that say, hey, this guy actually had an efficient night. Why he was not initiating the offense? Because you would have forced a completely different reaction on the part of the Knicks if Mitchell was up there involved with a high ball screen or an ISO, because now you're really worried about the threat level, and you're going to run somebody at him, you're going to trap, you're going to miscommunicate something, somebody else is going to get open. And he's just going off to the wing, and just kind of camping out. To me, that really bailed out the Knicks defense and the decisions that had to be made during that time. And that's where the game got away from him on the offensive end of the floor as well. And he knows it. He's going to watch the film and see it. And if they get in that situation where it's tight in the fourth quarter tonight, you're going to see, I think, a different reaction out of Mitchell.
So in a way, Tim Leggler joining us on the show, ESPN NBA analyst. He'll be with Mike Breen, Richard Jefferson, and Lisa Salters tonight on the call. So in a way, Tim, if you were a radio show host in Cleveland and you were saying, well, they were gassed, Donovan was gassed, is that an acceptable thing to say, or is that just an excuse?
No, I don't think that's an acceptable thing to say. If that team's gassed, I got news for you. They don't play as well as they did in the second and third quarters. That's not happening if that team is gassed. Because they struggled mightily offensively early. They weren't making shots. They're down 7. If that's a gassed team coming out of that 7-game series with 1 day off, I got news for you. That's going to build to probably a 20-point lead in the second quarter. That's not what happened. They dug deep. Their defense was so on point with the off-ball stuff that the Knicks were killing the Hawks and Sixers with. And that's been all this talk about, they kind of recalibrated their offense to put Karl-Anthony Towns out more as a facilitator, and they had a lot of Brunson baseline setting screens and coming up to receive the ball. And all this action and weak side slashing and cutting was creating a lot of problems for defenses. Push came to shove, they just went right back to Brunson, the original Brunson offense when he first got to New York, which was just let him go to work with high ball screen or ISO in the middle of the floor and do it. But the Cavs, for the entire stretch in those 2 quarters, were so good defensively with their communicational switches, with their taking away the weak side slashes. Their bigs were stepping up, and then the guards were sinking down so there couldn't be a drop-off pass to Towns or Robinson. And they were just so on point and connected. A gas team does not play that well for that long in that game. I'm sorry, they don't. For me, that wasn't about being gassed. That was more about they started to see something slip away that they had thought they had in hand, and now it was almost like a panicked reaction to that, and they wanted the clock to run out. And rather than continuing to play with the aggressive mindset offensively, it's only going to take 2 baskets probably in that entire 7-minute stretch. If you give me 2 baskets, 2 different possessions for the Cavs during that stretch, they win the game. But they all of them collectively sort of tightened up, and because they wanted the game to end. They wanted the time to run out and hold on. And if you play that way mentally in basketball, you're in trouble. You've got to maintain your aggressiveness. So I don't think it was fatigue. I think it was mentally they started to feel this thing caving in on them, and they looked around at each other, and they all were just trying to hold on rather than someone take the reins and go make this happen.
Typically, when James Harden has a game like that, the season's over because we know about the Game 6s, Game 7s, where he's had collapses. But this is Game 1. How do you think he will respond? This is so early in the series. Obviously, the competition just goes up every round. He's also 36 years old.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine because we know that, he has had incredible playoff performances. But he's also – and that's one thing about James Harden, it's the floor and the ceiling are pretty far apart at times in the same series. We've seen it time and time again. I mean, I can go back to the series he played a couple years ago in Philly when they played Boston 7 games, and Embiid was banged up a little bit. So he has 40-something in Game 1, Harden, on the road in Boston. They get a win. He had 40-something in Game 4, and they get a win in Philly when they were down 2-1, and even the series. 2 incredible playoff performances. The other 5 games in that series, he averaged 11 points a game. So your guess is as good as mine. I do think he's going to challenge himself to come out and be aggressive tonight and try to get his shot going. If he hits a couple of, his patented couple step back threes in the first quarter, I mean, you could be in for a 25, 30-point James Harden night. That's very possible. So I wish I could tell you how I knew exactly how he was going to react. I do think he's going to try to be aggressive, but if he comes out and goes 0 for 4 in the first quarter, that could typically lend him to taking his foot off the gas and being less aggressive the rest of the game and put more pressure on some of their other guys to pick it up.
Tim, I don't mean to ask a stupid question. You are on the call of all the games in the series?
Yes, I got the whole conference finals and finals.
Excellent. Well, enjoy the game tonight, and we look forward to you being here in Cleveland, and hopefully you'll enjoy your time here in Cleveland as well.
Appreciate that very much, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Tim Leggler, ESPN on the Wise Heart Right, We Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. In 5 minutes, it's either Kenny or James. It may be Donovan if we don't want to ignore the truth. We also got to get to what Tim just said about being tired. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on the absolutely free Odyssey app.
he needed to create the angle he needed off the glass. He banked in 3 shots during that stretch. And you can't get to the angle for the bank shot unless you are able to have enough space to take that final dribble to create that angle. And earlier in the game, he wasn't getting that additional dribble because he was being met higher up the lane. And in that stretch, he was not.
Now we are getting nitty-gritty basketball breakdown from Tim Leggler. Ball knower, ball knower, ball knower, ball knower, ball knower.
Lots of ball knowledge.
Ball knower.
Lots of knowledge here.
That was
well
amazing.
Done. He found it.
And he agreed with you.
Hell yeah, he did. Champions pose.
I don't know how you could watch them in overtime and not say they were 100% gassed. They could, they could barely dribble in overtime.
I could say they're gassed, but, I mean, at the same time, you're an excuse maker for him. I called you whammer yesterday. You almost swatted at me. And turns out I was right. Can't make that excuse.
Well,
it looked like they were absolutely mentally defeated.
Well, so, okay, that's what Tim's
they were
getting
mentally
at.
gassed.
But the funny thing is, who's been mentally tougher than the Cavs being able to win 2 Game 7s? So did that go away?
Well, if they get to a Game 7, maybe they'll be mentally tough, but they got to get to the Game 7.
Seriously, though, I mean, I said it at the start of the series. Like, how many teams in hockey, NBA, baseball in the same playoff setting have won 2 Game 7s? It's not a huge list.
Now, let me get off the soapbox here for a second. I enjoy winning an argument. Well, at least to Tim Leggler, I did.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to turn that into the whole thing about, well, they're just mentally weak. I didn't say they're mentally weak. I'm positive. I was a kid back then. I'm sure the 6-time champion Bulls of the 90s, because thanks to Owen, I got Bulls on the brain now. Bet a lot of other people did. I'm sure the 90s Bulls gave up a lead every now and then. Whether it be in a playoff game, whether it be in regular season, I'm sure there were brain farts. And they were probably as mentally tough as it is. I mean, you have to be mentally tough to be on that team in both instances of that team with Michael Jordan. So I don't think that all of a sudden they're mentally weak or they're soft or anything like that. I thought they played very, very, very physical on Tuesday. And they're going to have to do it again today. But in the history of all this, there's just no way I can stand here 10 years from now, and this was part of the argument that we got into yesterday. There's no way I can sit here 10 years from now and go, well, they were tired. It's just not going to work.
No. I think we're kind of having a misunderstanding here.
And fine.
I am trying to explain that I do think it's been a kryptonite of Donovan Mitchell, and it may be what separates him from Dwayne Wade, right? Mm-hmm. Dwayne Wade is, I think we would all agree, like the skill set is not all that different between him and Donovan. Dwayne Wade, I think, attacked the basket. But if you remember, Donovan used to attack the basket like Dwayne Wade. He can't do it as much. And this is about the age where Wade started to kind of slow down with the reckless attacking of the rim the way he did. But nobody really would ever question Dwayne Wade in the fourth quarter. The energy was still there. And like that's how LeBron James is LeBron James in his prime. That's how Kobe, those guys would play just as strong in the last 5 minutes. And I think throughout Donovan's career, I haven't really seen that ability. It really takes a lot out of Donovan when he has to play defense.
Well,
I thought he played elite level defense in that game.
Has Donovan ever played with a Shaquille O'Neal or a LeBron James?
No, not at all.
And arguably, Dwayne Wade's career is the most interesting one because you would physically look at him and go, no, he's a number 2. And on that team physically with LeBron, he was a number 2. On that team physically with Shaq, was he a number 1? Was Shaq used up? Not by then. Quickly after Shaq was used up, would he be number 1, number 2? But you would always say that he was the leader on those Heat teams. Even with LeBron, I think he was the leader on those teams. LeBron had to go through some stuff, obviously, leaving here and people setting his jersey on fire and all that stuff. So when we make the comparison to Donovan, Dwayne Wade was already kind of put through the ringer and tested and came out on the other side. But Donovan is the true number 1 on this team where everything in their ecosystem revolves around Donovan. I don't always think it was the same. To the fans, it was the same with Dwayne Wade, but I don't think it was always the same with him in the Heat. So that's almost an unfair comparison. But what I just get done saying to you, it's like you're trying to explain something to me which is true. Like, yeah, they probably were gassed. It's just ain't a wash. And
well, not to mention the Knicks hadn't played in 9 days. This was the tax of having to go through 2 7-game series. Yep. The Knicks have now played 11 playoff games. We've played 15. And James Harden at 36, like you're asking him to play 4 more games. And not just any 4 more games. he's played the most minutes of any Cavalier in the playoffs. And James Harden, the guy that everybody is like, should have been benched. How terrible he is. Well, they got to play him. Now, should there have been moments where he got benched in that fourth quarter? I think even Legs was like, hey, might have been time to bring in Max Strus. Might have been time to bring in, Wade off the bench.
Well,
and, there were times where they were in
James
there.
Harden late in that game?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough because you eventually feel like James is going to make a three. He's been cold now for 2.5 games, and that normally at the very least he's able to hit the threes.
I understand. I still think it's a dangerous thing to look like you've given up on James Harden late in the game. Now, I know they attacked him like crazy, and they'll probably try it again tonight. But I think that's where the timeout comes in, where you just kind of – it's hard for me to say because I sit there and go, well, call timeout and do something different. Okay, yeah, you do that, Ken. See how well that's going to work for you. Because I defend him on not removing James Harden from the game because you have a series here. So I can't just say, hey, old man, sit down after we just traded away part of our future
James
for you.
was – let's for the moment pretend like the fourth quarter didn't happen. Harden was – I know he only ended up with 3 assists, but Harden initiated the offense. In that third quarter, they were cooking the New York Knicks. How are they doing it? Harden was drawing double teams. Part of it was, I think, the base defense of what the Knicks like to do. And he was dropping off a lot of those pocket passes to Jared Allen in the middle or Evan Mobley in the middle, and it led to wide open looks. And James wasn't turning the ball over. And James was playing, I said, admirably on defense. He was guarding Karl Anthony Towns and doing so just fine. I think there were like 7 possessions he guarded Karl Anthony Towns and gave up 1 basket. So Leggler spoke to that too. He said Harden can be very good at guarding the bigger guys. What did you have happen there in the fourth quarter?
Who has the most pressure on them going into game 2? 216-474-0092. Yeah, I think a lot of folks would say Kenny, the head coach, or they would say James Harden. There have been a couple of people, some truthers coming out of the woodwork going, you guys kind of mentioned it in passing, and it should be a bigger deal that Donovan didn't score in the last 8 minutes and then didn't score in overtime. And
after having an amazing game.
I've had a couple of people I really do dearly respect when it comes to sports and certainly when it comes to basketball going, he was great in the first 3 quarters, and then he hits that one shot, and we brushed against it. It took 4 hours yesterday. We brushed against it yesterday. And there have been some truthers out there going, man, you guys are really being soft. If you want to talk about soft, you guys are being soft on Donovan Mitchell. Now, I'll explain myself here in a second, but do you think that we were soft on Donovan Mitchell yesterday, Tone? Somebody else in the room thinks we might be soft on Donovan Mitchell yesterday.
A little soft, mainly just because there was so much to get to yesterday. But I would have been much, I don't know, happier is the word, would have been more understanding if he went 1 for 10. I'd rather him go 1 for 10 than 1 for 4. 1 for 4 means we didn't even attempt anything.
And he didn't put his stamp on that.
Because Leggler said he camped out.
They put up a graphic to start the fourth quarter that was like, Game 1, Donovan Mitchell, he finally broke the streak last series of over 30 points. He had 9 straight Game 1s over 30 points. Then he got 23 last time. He did it 2 games in a row. Now he had 26 going into the fourth quarter, and everybody thought, well, he'll be at 35. Right?
That sucks. He was outplaying Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
Was doing it on both ends, too.
Yeah. And it was like, why did he take his foot off the gas offensively, And I know they were in power save mode. Let's work the shot clock and hope that we just run out of time before they make up their 22 points. But it didn't work, and the guy that's the superstar should be taking more than 4 shots.
You're right.
In the fourth quarter.
And I think it might have thrown him out of rhythm a little bit and it might have thrown him out of rhythm a little bit because you remember in the third quarter it became hacking Mitchell Robinson, which certainly slowed the pace of things down. And then in the fourth quarter when you're trying, and it did, but when you're in the fourth quarter and then you're slowing down your own offense because you're looking up at the clock and you want to keep that at bay, I've never seen it come back and bite somebody in the ass quite like that in my entire life. And that's what it did to the Cavs. And when we're bringing up Donovan, I find it hard to criticize Donovan the same way I'm putting a lot of this on Kenny. Because and why I'm putting a lot of pressure on Kenny tonight. Because I don't think we're here without James Harden. We're not talking about this. We are talking about OTAs and the Guardians right now and whether or not to trade guys had they not traded for James. So it's hard for me because I got to look at the big picture. I got to look at the big picture of this. But there's plenty of people who have been arm's length with James, and then there's plenty of people who are going, hey, man, you guys are soft pedaling around Donovan. He's high paid. He's the guy that we made all this for. You guys need to be stronger on Donovan, and he disappeared in the fourth quarter. And maybe I just need to accept that, and maybe I did soft pedal it there. 216-474-0092, because he might be what stirs this entire drink. It doesn't mean he's away from criticism in a big game. I want to know from you guys who has the most pressure on them, and the voice of reason. Finally, an NBA player who didn't just kill the Cavs yesterday to get famous. I want to give somebody their due. It's coming up in 5 minutes on The Fan.
plays and clues based on who is doing what, when, and with who.
Listen for Mary Kay Cabot from the Plain Dealer in Cleveland.com. Tuesday mornings at 11 on Cleveland's Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Earlier this morning, we played Marcus Morris saying that the Cavs lack leadership. I thought that was overblown. I agreed with you on that. It's like, well, if Sam Merrill's shot goes down, what are we saying?
They're good leaders. They battled adversity for the third time in the playoffs.
They weathered the storm of the rested team that's favored at Madison Square Garden and still found a way to win. That's what they're saying. Instead of Marcus Morris is saying we lack leaders all of a sudden.
Some teams wouldn't have responded, wouldn't have been able to even continue playing basketball after that.
Now, is Patrick Beverley on his show telling me something I just want to hear, so I'm going to agree with him, or does Patrick Beverley make a point about Game 2?
Buenos dias. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. You guys did this last series, Game 1 and Game 2 with James Harden. You didn't play well. Everyone has a bunch of things to say. When they advance, everyone gets very quiet. If I'm a Cleveland Cavalier basketball player, I feel very confident. We walked into the Garden. We were up 20. We let our guard down. Simple as that. It's a 7-game series, boys and girls. Let's leave the slander to after the series. Let's not slander game by game by game. All right? Have some respect, have some decency, or don't.
they're gonna slander game by game. That's the way the media works. But
that's why the playoffs are amazing. That's why I love him.
He's got a great point. We cannot. Well, I'm not hearing a lot of hot takes now. I didn't see Oklahoma City in San Antonio last night. I was watching the Guardians, which maybe that was a miss by me. You didn't hammer me for it. I thought you were going to really hammer me for it.
No, you're about to say, though, that they're not overreacting to these games. They're not overreacting. And you know why? Because
they probably think that that's the real finals.
Everyone thinks this is the NBA Finals, and they're two of the best teams in the sport. And by the way, I agree. I mean, they are.
If we get to the NBA Finals, can we do the thing? Are you just happy to be there? Are we just happy to be here?
I will be happy, and then you play the games and you get miserable watching the games. That's how it works. How much
fun? The same joke I say after Liz says, "Okay, draw the blinds."
How much fun does anybody truly have watching their team in these gut-wrenching games? I mean, were the Knicks fans having fun for most of that game?
No,
they were miserable.
I think they were thinking about all the money they were, on there.
Yeah, and then, of course, they end up somehow covering the spread as well, which is just amazing. It was a 22-point game, and they covered a 7.5-point spread. By the way, Patrick Beverley, when you listen to him, you know what Patrick Beverley looks like on the court and the way he played the game and how he was a thorn in the side of a lot of players. And then you hear him talk, and it does not match. It did not match at all, the instigator that he was. He sounded very scholarly while he was doing that, like very professorial during that clip.
You are right. He sounded like a wise older man.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
So what, was that an act the whole time to be able to...
He might have just ran hot on the basketball floor.
Yeah,
he might have just ran hot. I mean, he was a guy who demanded...
He was 6'2".
He had to earn it.
70.
He demanded respect. He had to earn it. But I thought professorial is the way you said it. I think that's a perfect way to describe him.
But you're a guy like him's not going to overreact to a game here or there. Why would he? I mean, that's a guy who's been... He's been an underdog his whole life. And so he knows how the NBA playoffs work.
216-474-0092. Gedalia? Cleveland, hello?
Hello. Yeah, so I think all the pressure will be on Kenny Atkinson. He got us into this mess. I'm not blaming James Harden. He should have made some of those shots. But the defense, you have to know, he doesn't have good defense. I don't know what the hell what Kenny Atkinson was doing, keeping him in there. Should have put Dean Wade and Max Strus in there for there. So I think all the pressure's on Kenny Atkinson for getting us into this.
It's very difficult, though, and thank you for the call, because very rarely have we ever seen something so blatant. Have we? Because there's things like, again, call the right plays. Football. Oh, he called bad plays. Did he call bad plays, or do you just have you can only play with who you have, and the other team's just better football players, you end up losing that game?
Well, and conversely,
were they successful or not? And when it comes to timeouts, I could see from basketball guy, like if you're a true blue basketball guy, like if you are Pete Moran listening to us and you just kept hearing timeout every single game of the year, you're probably rolling your eyes going, this idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. but it was just so blatantly obvious. Rarely do we see anything blatantly obvious. So what does Kenny do different other than win? We won't see that until the final few minutes of the game.
Conversely, was anybody really giving – this is the spot you're in when you're a head coach like this. Conversely, was he getting any credit at all when they were up 22?
No.
Nobody was thinking of crediting the coach. Like, you move on to so many other things.
Actually, I did. Because
well, maybe you did, but I'm just saying most people do not in the NBA.
I followed along on social media, and I lied to everybody because I thought I was going to be Zero Dark 30 on social media, and I ended up looking at some of the responses on Twitter. And there were people being critical of some of the lineups that Kenny was rolling out there, even when they were up. And I thought to myself, man, people they refused to get off of Kenny. And the Cavs were up by 20, and it was obviously easy to say that. I go, man, he's got this team going. They have played 2 Game 7s. Like, I thought about the whole time. Like, I did not think that there was a chance, really, that they were going to win Game 1. I settled in to see how close it was going to be, how well we played. I really expected to have a much more measured response yesterday after Game 1. It obviously didn't go that way. And then I was very glad I didn't text my buddy and start ripping him while he was being critical of Kenny Atkinson because of what happened later on in the game.
And then the other part of this is, like, who likes their coach in the NBA during the playoffs at this stage of the season?
I don't know if anybody does.
The Boston fans were so mad about Joe Mazzulla, and he has a championship. You think the Nuggets fans were loving Adelman?
We weren't loving Ty the last couple of years.
No. This is what happens this time of year. Everybody sours on their coaches.
Yep. Thanks to Mary Kay Cabot. Thanks to Tim Leggler. He's on the call tonight, ESPN. Listen to that interview, 923thefan.com. We're back tomorrow, 6 to 10. Hopefully, it's an even series, or maybe we're getting some funeral music going. Hopefully not. I still don't think the series is over if they lose tonight. Find out what you guys think tomorrow. For Big Country, for Jeff, for John, for John's wonderful hair, for Lamb Chop, for the Slippery Wizard Anthony Lima, I'm Ken Carman. Have a wonderful day. Go Cavs. Go Cavs.
Thank you for paying
Let's
attention
go.
and making sure that you're not booing, but you clap.
Hey.